and it will still create a round crater. I think essentially the object, whatever it's hitting, just gets vaporized. I don't know what happened to the second stage, the rocket. It's going to hit at 5,000 miles an hour, so that's not quite fast enough to get vaporized, I don't think, right?
The problem is I don't have a telescope that can zoom in enough to see anything of that size hitting the moon, so it's not going to happen tonight.
Fair enough. Doesn't matter then.
Unless someone wants to stream it, does anyone know, like, this must be a big deal for the science community. Is anyone going to be, like, streaming this anywhere in the world? Is NASA going to be doing it?
I'm sure there might be people who are going to put their observations on YouTube or stream it or record it with their equipment or try to, because obviously a lot of people it may not be something we can see. No one is quite certain.
Well, it's supposed to hit the moon or something.
I've got 12 different channels are apparently covering it.
Covering what? Something's supposed to hit the moon?
Yeah.
That's fake.
But I mean, it's not that big a news. I don't think it was on the front page, of the newspaper or something,
It's not the first time it's ever happened. It's not the first time it's ever happened. I don't think it's ever the first time that ever. I think there are before and after pictures of changes on the surface, aren't there?
That's not exclusive to a rock hitting the moon.
The problem is these people have these live streams and their thumbnails show this gigantic explosion on the moon.
Oh yeah.
So people are going to be expecting that.
Clickbait mongers, mate.
Clickbait will end us all.
Do you guys ever think it's weird though that like
no more results?
The side that's skeptical is like, yo, we're not going to see that happen, and then we never see it happen every time. We're always right.
Are you going to try to see it happen, or are you just going to not look and then declare it didn't happen?
Well, I feel like there's plenty of like people obsessed with the propaganda that should look for me,
Well, they are. That's what they're trying to do.
Why is that funny?
What an outsourcing of attempt! Like, damn.
That notwithstanding, I think a lot of people are going to try and look for it.
The veracity of the claims dependent upon me going and checking.
You just specifically cited things you claim happening. So if you're not even going to go see if they do,
no,
then that's on you.
That's not what I said, though. I said, do you guys not ever even like step back and think about it honestly? Where the skeptical side just every time something like this happens, we instantly say that's not going to happen, and we're always right.
Are you?
The always right can be in contention. You have to look every time if you're going to continue to claim that you're always right.
I remember a rock hitting the moon. There will be no video of a rock hitting the moon. 100% guaranteed.
Correct. No rock is hitting the moon tonight. No one is claiming that. Congratulations.
Okay, so there isn't a claim that a rock's going to hit the moon.
No, there isn't. No one's claiming a rock's hitting the moon tonight. No one at all.
Correct.
Well, tell them what it is.
We are all in agreement. Look, we found common ground. No rock.
I asked you from the beginning what we were talking about.
Yeah, you're late to the party.
Tonight? I don't care when it is. It's never going to happen.
Okay. What is it?
It's a rocket. It's a rocket. A rocket.
Oh, it's a baby rock.
Good job, Gio. Yes, rocket equals baby rock. Well done, sir.
I really don't know what we're talking about. Something's supposed to hit the moon and create a crater.
Well,
is it right?
I mean, no one's sure whether it's going to create a noticeable crater. No one's sure.
What is it?
Okay, go on then.
I'm just asking, what is
it? It's a piece of space junk.
Okay, a rock.
Well, no, something
metal.
made of metal.
A lump of metal.
An engineered piece of
metal. Oh my god, bro. Okay. Sorry, guys.
All right.
Not a space rock,
specificity.
Space metal.
Word specificity doesn't matter for shit.
For sure. What's the exact elemental composition of it, guys?
So if I may, the only
47% aluminium, 37% steel, 9% titanium, 2% cobalt.
No, but for real, what do they say it is? It's a piece of a SpaceX rocket booster or something? What is the actual
stage?
He wants the exact composition.
Oh, it's supposedly like man-made debris.
There you go.
It's
so now it's super faking gay. 100% not going to happen.
Okay.
So the exciting part is, if I may, the exciting part is it's going to dig a little divot into the moon's surface, and scientists are excited because they wouldn't do that deliberately. It's happening accidentally, so they're excited about it.
Oh, okay, but we're not going to actually see it.
Surface.
Well,
we won't.
Well,
That's poisoning the well.
What they're saying is we might not see.
It's not poisoning the well.
I'll explain why if you let me.
I mean, well, hang on. Everyone is saying they might not see the impact. There might not be a flash or a puff or a bang or whatever. They might not even necessarily discern a crater, but there is a possibility there could be a dust plume. Possibility.
Oh my God! Now we're talking. Okay, that's not going to happen either. But okay, that's not poisoning the well. Can you please define that?
But if
I'll say if you're not willing to look, like you recording nothing happening would certify that potentially nothing happened. But you're just saying like it's not. Hold on, no, don't interrupt. You can wait 30 seconds. You could do your work to attempt to capture it and capture nothing, and that would be evidence. But doing nothing will never be evidence.
Where's the poisoning the well part?
Poisoning the well is assisting, like it will. This will not happen. This is not happening. It's impossible.
The well,
if you're not even going to lift a finger to try it, then you can rest on your laurels, and let everybody else attempt to do it, and then claim victory at the end. But if you actually lift it up,
I will definitely do that. I'll definitely do that with no shame whatsoever. But
no doubt,
I'm
I don't doubt it.
autistic
Like,
about this, man. But like, you can't
thing.
just be throwing fallacies around you don't understand. I asked you to define. You didn't define it. What you then proceeded to say has literally nothing to do with poisoning the well. I'm gonna help you here. Okay?
Fallacy.
Poisoning the well. Stop freaking out. You're spurring out.
Can I ask you?
Wait up, man.
Fundamentally,
poisoning the well. Can I please finish what I'm saying? It's been like what 7 seconds. Poisoning the well is preemptively discrediting someone to an audience before they speak. It's literally bringing up something typically unrelated to the topic itself to preemptively discredit an individual to an audience before they make their argument.
We appreciate it.
So that has literally nothing to do with what's been going on at all.
The Witsit show.
That's precisely. You're preemptively discrediting anyone who records anything. You're preemptively discrediting anyone who potentially records anything by being unwilling to do even anything yourself. If anybody has a recording tomorrow, you're going to declare it fake, and you're going to declare victory.
Can I move on and ask a question?
You're actually going to try to double down.
You got
if a load of people independently observe a dust cloud scheduled for this time frame, what should we make of it?
I don't know. I have to see what it is. I mean, I have to see videos of it.
I believe they're sending Witsit over there, and he's going to vape the dust cloud.
Okay, well what would you make of it if that was the case?
If there was actually like a lot of videos of it, or if I could see it, I would be like, whoa, that's crazy, because the moon doesn't create dust clouds. That's all fake and gay.
Okay.
So I would have to re-examine my opinion about the moon. Something you guys seem unfamiliar with being able to do.
I'm always reevaluating my position.
Are you really? Are you open to the fact Earth's not tilted, wobbling, and spinning, flying through space?
Yeah, I've evaluated the alternative propositions, and I'm not satisfied by it.
Have you? So you've like, you could still man a geocentric argument.
Well, I don't see how all the observations we make align to it, but I can certainly understand how people come to the conclusion it's flat.
No. Whoa, we're talking about it moving.
Yeah, strictly geocentric. We're not on flat.
Every time I bring it up, someone just defaults to flat every time.
Well, I can understand. I can understand that people might think have an understanding of geocentrism and think that the Earth is the center of it all. I mean, that was in historicity, that was a position a long time, even by people who evaluated it and measured it and hypothesized the dimensions and size of it, like Ptolemy, for example.
But we were talking about whether or not you have actually been willing to examine what you hold to be true, look at the evidence, and then be able to change your position.
Yeah, I've looked at it. I've looked at all the neo-Tychonian stuff. I've looked at what other people have said about it. I've evaluated all the observations. I'm not satisfied that it's stationary and everything goes around it.
Okay. So you could still man a geocentric argument then?
Well, what part of it do you want me to still man? All of it?
Just a general synopsis would be sufficient.
Say how the cosmic microwave background would be wouldn't have to be explained.
What would be gained by me still manning it though?
Well, just you would be actually proving that you've actually even done the first step of what you're claiming to do, which is like actually understand the alternative, which let's just cut to the chase. You haven't done that. It's all good, but I just think it's kind of funny, right? Because like the stillman of your position is, oh, well, it could definitely be the center of the universe and we can't prove otherwise. And everything that we observe on the earth, even in terms of empirical tests, are going to show us exactly what we would see if it were not moving and in the center of the universe. That is literally and objectively a stillman of what you believe. So
well, I mean, all right. So I'll try and stillman it. Yeah, right. There is a framework, a kinematic framework where you can evaluate the Earth Moon, certainly the Earth Moon Sun system and the solar system, and potentially draw an equivalent.
No, all of it, the whole universe.
No, you can't, because then you'd have to have things at massive distances moving at speeds which don't seem to comport to any of the laws of physics.
Wait, time out. What laws of physics don't
the speed of light? The speed of light.
What law of physics is the speed of light?
Well, our understanding of how the speed of light works.
But it's not a law of physics. What do you mean our understanding? Where does the speed of light come from?
The people that measure the light and the people that come up with all the relativistic
who measured the one-way speed of light?
Hang on, Witsit. Who's still manning me? Or are you stomping over me trying to do it?
I'm just trying to expedite it.
You live streaming?
No.
What are you trying to do? What's all the posturing for? Let people have a little stab at a conversation.
Hey, get it on, yeah.
What speed of light?
I'm trying to. If you want, keeps whoa.
You called it a law of physics.
Witsit's gonna have a go. Off you go, Witsit. I'm bored.
No, well, I'm just trying to understand. You called it a law of physics, and you didn't say, "Oh, my bad, I was wrong." You just tried to move past it. It's not a law of physics, but go ahead. I mean, it's not a law of physics. I don't know what you're talking about. The one-way speed of light's never even been measured. Let's just get
to the point where you posturingly say you've crushed me, Witsit. Off you go.
No. Admit you were wrong. No one's ever measured the one-way speed of light. It isn't a law of physics. So do you even know where it comes from?
They've evaluated light into. They've evaluated it. Okay, now you have a go. Off you go.
Yeah, Pazza. Okay, so the geocentric model is a lot less issues, yeah? So why do you want us to jump onto your train, man?
Wait up. Just let him answer, though. I want him to answer. I just don't, bro, do you know where the supposed speed of light comes from?
I just heard this. E equals MC squared came from someone else, but I forget who.
The speed of light is being measured. The speed of light is being measured in two directions.
Yes. Okay.
Right. Okay.
Okay. So it requires a fundamental assumption that it's going the same speed both ways. The one-way speed of light has never been measured, but beyond that, even if we measure it terrestrially at a consistent speed, even if we were to measure it one way, right, that doesn't actually establish a definitive finite speed to light. Okay. So where it comes from is special relativity. Right, the assumed definitive limitation of the speed of light. That is definitely not a law of physics, my guy. It's not even remotely close to one.
Okay, but it's a shared understanding that no one's observed it traveling faster than that.
Relevant, but this is the other part, right? No one's ever seen Bendy's space-time either, so you seem to have a really inconsistent worldview here. But if we even go to relativity, you're incorrect about that. If you actually look at special and general relativity, there actually isn't a strict limitation on the speed of light. In the presence of strong gravitational fields or large enough masses, you can largely exceed the speed of light.
I thought
you can read Rosser, which is one of the most revered professors that teaches relativity in the history of physics, and he breaks it down with all the math, explicitly explaining it's a misnomer that relativity requires a limitation to the speed of light. It's only limited terrestrially in the presence of this known gravitational fields or masses. So even in the assumption that the universe is as big as you claim, the distances are what you claim, and the masses are what you claim, in that actual scenario, the masses and gravitational fields would be so great that the universe itself could spin 10,000 times faster than the speed of light in your own theory of relativity.
So your whole model is a begging question fallacy.
So what are you talking about, Witsit, in the middle of black holes and shit like that? Places where
I'm just saying,
our math breaks down?
No. I'm saying I said no. So if you assume the Earth's in the center of the universe, applying relativity, which of course you have to do that because to believe the model you believe in, you have to believe there's an equivalence the other way, right? So if the Earth is in the center, the math is identical to not in the center. If you apply relativity to the Earth in the center and you have the whole universe moving around it, according to relativity, the universe could be rotating around the Earth way faster than the speed of light, and you could still invoke relativity. Even beyond that, though, if you actually put the Earth in the center, it changes everything drastically. One major thing is there is no need for dark energy and the accelerative expansion of the universe. So the size of the universe
how are you
we
drawing your
don't have to worry
kinematic
about that.
equivalence then? If you're not going to take all the forces and masses involved in play.
Time out. The size of the universe then can be drastically altered. Do you understand that? Do you understand
It's
what?
a whole lot of what ifs and if you dids.
Yeah,
No, it's not. It's this is what your belief is. You don't understand it. That's what it is.
No, that's not what it is. My beliefs
It
actually,
is.
to be honest, my beliefs don't give a rat's fuck about what's happening in other galaxies. My understanding and beliefs and personal experience, both. Hang on. Hang on. My personal experiences professionally are in cartography that we've measured the whole fucking surface and it comports to a sphere.
Oh my god! You just
waffling about a
short
non-sequitur?
circuited back to shape again.
Yeah, it's
No,
ridiculous.
I'm talking.
Well,
No.
can we agree?
All right,
Can we agree that the
okay.
can we agree?
You're not
Can we agree that
describing
the
flat
geocentric
Earth
position?
geocentric model, right?
Can we agree that the geocentric model makes sense? Like as long as we don't assume that Freemasons went to space and traveled around the solar system.
No,
Not flat Earth in any way, shape, or form, right?
Even if they did that, geocentrism is to act. Even in their own worldview, to disprove geocentrism, you have to get outside of our galaxy.
No, you don't.
Well, that's why I said
You
they have
don't
to. They have
know
to claim.
anything
They have to
about what
claim
you
to believe that
believe,
they
man.
flew around space.
No, you don't know. You are the one that in these conversations that drags in things like Popov's
You just brought up maps, dude.
Wait, time out, pause. You just said that's
Q.
not true. It's just
All right,
objectively factual.
I'm only going to go against one twat at a time. So Q up. Are you going to shut up, or is Witsit going to shut up?
Wait,
it's an open room, man. But look, Paz, just
okay, off you go, you two.
Okay, you needed a life jacket, really. That's all Q up kind of did effectively.
See, I say one thing and he fucking rage quits. I'm better
because he needs a life jacket, right? Because
I thought you two hated each other's guts. What's happened to all the vaping?
Oh my god, dude! Look, you're just
but we have the
wrong
same
about
position except for
everything.
what him faking Antarctica and his breath.
No, but he didn't go. He went into
So
a
basically, we have the
space
same
dome,
system,
didn't he?
except
He's
about
alive. He's
everything
a
he's wrong
shill.
about.
He's a
All right,
massive
you guys,
shill.
we're not going to make
Why
this
are you
about
talking with
TFC
him?
and me making
Hey,
Witsit.
come on.
We're not going to do that right now.
Don't give him a life jacket right now. Okay, you're wrong. You have to get.
How many times have you texted his wife to berate him? Why are you two
Oh
sticking up
my
for him?
god, he's trying so hard.
Oh
Okay,
no.
listen. You have to get out. You have to get outside of the galaxy according to your own model, right? So, like,
No, I don't.
you said that wasn't true. So, okay, let's use the Apollo missions for example. How did the Apollo missions prove the heliocentric model? Go ahead.
I don't use the Apollo missions to prove the heliocentric model.
Anything we've sent to space. Well, how does any of that prove? If I grant it to you, right? How does any of that prove that?
I don't use any of that to evaluate the Earth being a
Okay,
sphere.
so when he made the point of if we just assume that Freemasons didn't go to space, you guys agreed there's no proof, and I said, well, actually, even if
I
you
don't
grant
use
that to
any
them,
of this to assume the Earth, to evaluate the Earth being a sphere.
that isn't the. Well, you keep on just short circuiting to a sphere. Do you understand that the idea of shape and motion are separate?
I know, but I'm not interested in these conversations. I know the Earth's a
Oh,
sphere.
that's convenient. So when this all started, which was like, well, what would happen if you saw dust clouds on the moon? I'd be like, oh, well, that doesn't comport to what I understand about the moon. I'd have to re-examine what I hold to be true, something you guys seem unfamiliar with. And then you're like, no, I totally am intellectually honest and examine my beliefs all the time.
So what evidence are you going to bring that's going to make us reevaluate the galaxy?
The community's desperately after a map, working maps, and comparing different flat Earth models. I think we're a little burned out on sitting here and listening to people talk to global.
You're not a flat earther. Why are you claiming what we want?
Yeah,
For example, there's flat earthers like QOP where it's been 2 years since the final experiment.
Oh my god!
About 24-hour sun. No, I'm not talking about Witsit. I'm talking about QOP. Hasn't thought about the 24-hour sun. Hasn't thought about.
How does that matter?
They were on a topic.
Kim Jong-un.
QOP has spent like a disproportionate
Hail
amount of time on Witsit compared to the truth, which is flat Earth and figuring out our model of reality.
Okay, but this is how I can tell. People are gonna get so triggered when I come back debating, and it's gonna be a lot of geocentrism because like every time I bring it up, people just can't handle it, dude. And it's like, bro, okay, say the Earth is flat. Say the Earth is flat. Say it's not flat.
Geocentrism
in either
is
scenario.
a
In either scenario, if you it's not. It means Earth centered. Isn't it specific to shape?
Yeah, globe.
This is our prediction. Witsit, if you go globe geocentrist, then you win.
A geocentric setup, which it has as well.
Do it, Witsit. Go to the globe.
And specifically,
go to the globe.
we already know.
Go to the globe?
We already know flat Earth is We already know flat Earth is geocentric. What we really want to know is what's the map, what's the setup of the
okay, no, that's what you
like
really want to know. And then every time we're having a conversation, no, that's what you want to know. And every time someone's having a conversation, you jump in and try to
leaves it in the middle for
listen.
his
The vibes have changed, Witsit, since the last time.
No, you don't speak for everyone. Why do you do this
shit in the past is
Why
not going to fly anymore.
Why do you do this thing where you act like you
If
speak
I don't
for
call
everyone?
you out, someone else will. Honestly.
Okay, well, I'm waiting because it's always you, and it's always the same point. You always pretend you're speaking for everyone, and then everyone always tells you to shut up.
No, just get off your fucking high horse, okay?
You're
not better than anyone
you're
else.
on a high horse pretending like you have the ability to speak
you
for everyone.
and everyone else is figuring out, like the arrangement of the flat Earth continents. Okay, stop trying
See,
to.
you're the one that's
separate
on your
yourself.
high horse.
not
You
interested
think
You're
that
in the same boat as everyone else.
Oh my God, you're literally
he's not
interrupting the
interested in the
conversation
surface.
because
He's
you
not
believe
interested in
that
the
what
surface.
you want to be discussed is more important than what other people are discussing, and then you're accusing me of being on a high horse.
Yeah,
and why are you letting all the North Koreans starve?
I'm just gonna go on mute. What I said stands facts with it.
Okay, well, don't
Consider it.
just for going forward.
No, I'm not. You're just gonna cry.
Just going
You're
forward,
just
just
gonna cry.
assume.
If I take you on honestly, you'll lose and you'll cry. So there's no
You just
point.
got nuked.
No.
You just
I'm
got
the only one that can make
decimated,
Witsit
bro.
cry. Let's.
Dude, is
no
taking me on
one's
honestly? Does that include you not interrupting though? So like, I'm happy to have a conversation with anyone, but not just like incessant interruptions. It's not a conversation. It's not impressive either. Just assume going forward is duly noted. Your opinion's duly noted every time I've been in this room in the last year. You've said it.
Stop talking.
It's always that you want a map.
Get off
trust
your
me. I know
arrogant
you
fucking
want a
high
map.
horse, dude.
You want a map.
You don't have
want a map.
anything on anyone
Go
in
talk
here,
to
bud.
the royal
You went
family.
back to calling him like he's on a high horse when he just pointed out to everyone.
Yeah, that you're like literally on one.
Witsit, please go Glober.
Back to baiting Paza with Glober questions. Go on.
Well, this is I just think, right? A lot of the people on that side, they actually don't even know these things, and like it really, no matter how much what anyone says, it's just obviously true that if the Earth were in the center of the universe, that is a massive deal. And if you actually step back and look at the whole conversation intellectually, that's actually the first part of it, dude. Like if you look at it from a cosmological perspective, which is the entirety, the question of the whole, the meta question of where we are, right? Like us, everything we see in the sky moving around us, or us shooting through it, and it just looks like it's moving around us. That's the fundamental first.
So we gotta
question.
imagine we're spatial, huh? Is that how it works?
No. You have to just make this weird assumption that we're not. What if I'm just indifferent? And whether we're specially located or not, I don't care.
You're not indifferent.
And
You're not indifferent.
Have
You're
this
biblically
weird,
driven. We know you are.
You're interrupting me because you know that you can't let me say it.
You're not indifferent. Don't pretend you are.
Your side, you're freaking out. Your side is the one that has this weird philosophical bias against the idea of it being special and uniquely positioned. And you know how I know that? Because I read all of the people that you believe but didn't read, and I know exactly how they developed
literally
what
called
you
the
believe.
Copernican principle. It's a principle.
They made it clear in all their writings, all the fatherheads of your belief, that that's exactly what they did. That they have a philosophical bias against it, that to them, they think it doesn't make as much sense. If the universe is this big, we wouldn't be special. So the people that formulated your worldview, they have the philosophical bias. I do not. Either way, if we were in the center or we weren't, I would say it still requires a God. It's literally indifferent to my worldview.
My side's the side with evidence, though.
Dr. Phil wants evidence.
What is Bible hour again?
Based on evidence. Yeah. Your side's not based on evidence.
He wants a universe all around us in every direction, but still somehow.
No, I just pointed out I don't want or not want that. I'm indifferent.
You want a flat
Dr.
Earth.
Phil
you
wants
want a flat
evidence.
Earth. You've always wanted a flat Earth.
Why would I want a flat Earth? You realize my life would have been much simpler without it being flat.
Well, because you spent 2 years talking about schooling globers, you buffoon.
Not the person, please, not the person.
Okay,
so
here's the deal,
globers in math.
Here's the deal, right? Here's the question. If the Earth truly were in the center, and even if we just are very charitable and say that the mainstream has got it grossly incorrect, if we just assume incompetence as opposed to malevolence, and they were just misguided and wrong, and it turns out actually Earth's in the center, would that be significant?
Yeah.
Should that then would that be very important?
I'd probably come to the absolute conclusion it's a wholly deistic construct.
Okay, so then think about the impact that would have, not just on you individually, but society as a whole.
Okay, fine. I can
Okay,
do
now
that.
think about this. Think about this. would it be significant that children, when they're super malleable and they're looking to adults blindly to have their entire worldview formulated, being told the one as opposed to the other, that would be pretty significant as well, wouldn't it?
Okay, but we've already gone past it. We've already said suddenly we realised that
And then you add evolution,
go for
you
it,
add
go for it. I mean,
atheism, you got the whole.
it's not worth it. You can't talk. You can't do this. You can't do this.
So you
Trying to
understand though,
follow it
you
through.
understand it's a big deal though, right?
Oh yeah, it would be a fucking great big deal, wouldn't it? But let's
So then
suppose
how come when
we
I
did that.
bring it up, you guys just start talking about the globe over and over?
Well, because they are linked, and this is a linked conversation.
They're not linked.
Okay, fine. You want me to flesh out what I'm thinking?
Well, you literally said at the center of the universe.
Off
That's
you
a
go,
globe,
then,
globe
Carry
geocentric
on, you
model.
two.
No, it doesn't have to be a globe. No, Paz, draw a straight line.
The flat Earth is not at the center of the universe. The flat Earth is, below the vortex of the ether.
Logically speaking, if we're in a torus field, there's the same thing below us.
Yeah, but we don't see any of that part. So.
Yeah. Okay. So.
Well, the entire thing we call the universe is the thing above.
Even if we were at the basement and say there was nothing below us, we'd be in the center of it, in terms of the rotation, right?
All right, I'll meet you there.
But like, I would say, obviously, there would have to be a below. But either way, like, this is what I don't get is like when I point out, for example, like I just cited someone that's like very respected in your own belief, and he's like considered an expert, subject matter expert on relativity, like the utmost experts. Like what you could even say more so than Einstein, because Einstein himself was like, "Oh, I don't really understand it." He was changing a lot as he was alive. He died. People studied it for decades, and then this is like the expert of experts that break down all the math of the implications of relativity. And he explains, "Well, look, if you actually look at the math, right, it's a misnomer to believe that there's a finite speed of light. So that doesn't even work." But this is the question I asked you. They didn't answer. If the Earth's in the center, then you don't need accelerative expansion. Thus, you don't need dark energy. Do you understand that?
Okay, let's suppose that's true.
So wait, just on its face, doesn't that mean that just on its face, the geocentric model is more viable? Like if one model needs dark energy, something that we can't find, can't define, can't explain, it has to be. Okay, so then you're granting that geocentrism is superior.
Well, I've given you in this scenario, I'm giving you all of that, yeah.
Well, it's not really optional.
I'm conceding.
It's not a scenario.
I'm following through your thought process. Let's supposing this in what you're talking about, this is all true.
Yeah.
What next? Where
Where
are you leading this?
Here's where I'm leading you. I'll just quote Edwin Hubble here, right? So, like, if it is in fact that the Earth is in the center, let's say, then, like he said, the universe, it would have major implications. Primarily, that the universe would be much more local, finite, and more dense.
Why?
And suspiciously young.
Why would that be the case? You can still have all the dimensions that you had. You just don't understand it properly.
No. Because the reason that accelerative expansion was proposed was to explain the Hubble observations. Right. So it was literally like a get out of jail free card that was proposed. It was an ad hoc explanation or post hoc explanation because the observations matched the geocentric prediction and specifically did not match the heliocentric prediction. So what we did was say, oh, well, if it was accelerating and expanding in all directions out away from everywhere, then it would look like we were in the center no matter where we were. And we use the analogy of like an ant on a balloon or a raisin in the bread in the oven, right?
So all of our propositions about the distances to stars, like they predate any descriptions of relativity.
That's not even really true either, right? The distances to the stars have changed drastically in just the last century.
I know, but nonetheless, none of those evaluations of like things like redshift or stellar geometry, you've got nothing to do with.
Yes.
Go on, then. You're not going to let me finish a sentence, are you?
Well, I thought that was your sentence.
Did anybody try and
none of our observations
here. We don't need Daza.
Yeah, there we are. Go on, carry on. I'm not doing anymore.
You said no. I'll just go ahead and finish it. None of our observations like redshift are dependent upon. You're wrong. You're wrong. That's exactly what it is. Redshift. The interpretation of redshift is specifically dependent on time.
MC2 versus Witsit all moderate.
Wait, pause it. Is that not what you were saying? That like our interpretation of redshift is independent upon that? That's exactly what we're talking about.
Did astronomy try and evaluate and elude the distances to like across the Milky Way or different galaxies from observation and from understanding of physics before the notions of or the propositions of general relativity came along?
That's a total non sequitur. Whether or not people try to determine the
Why is that a non
distances
sequitur?
before, I'm explaining it. Whether or not people tried to determine distances prior doesn't matter at all. Doesn't sequentially fall to my point. I already disputed or refuted that, which was that they've already changed them drastically in the last century alone. And then our fundamental understanding of the universe was changed at Hubble's observations. We proposed the idea of accelerative expansion that changes everything.
Okay, so you use the notion that you come to the conclusion we're geocentric. Now, what observations or mechanics or equations are you using for the proposition that everything is much closer?
Oh, I'm saying it would just be a necessary implication.
Well, where are you getting that from?
Hubble himself.
Well, in citation.
Well, let's just be very okay. You actually want me to cite Hubble?
He literally verbatim said the quote, dude. It's almost very accurate.
Well, no, he didn't. No, that's not verbatim.
I have
the citation isn't him pretending that Hubble has said something.
Okay, so you never read that? I mean, whatever. So like, even we don't even need a quote. Let's just think logically.
Oh, okay.
Would
Should I
the
go and find
universe
one?
be?
What do I look for?
I'll look it up. I'll look it up for you, buddy. But I'm gonna just ask you a question. Would the universe be bigger? You're scared. You're scared. You're scared.
Well, I'm not moving on to get a citation.
I told you I'd look it up, but it actually doesn't even matter because
Well,
that would be required. That would require buddy, stop interrupting me so much.
Because you asserted it as a framework for the assertion that the universe is smaller.
Oh, okay. Oh my God. What I actually did was used him as a hostile witness. Usually that's like the most efficient way to expedite the conversation. Since you're rejecting it, stop interrupting me. I'm not appealing to his authority. It doesn't matter what he did or didn't say. It doesn't become true because he said it. It's just because he's a hostile witness in your own belief. You seem to be ignorant of your own belief. That's fine. Not really a shocker there. We can just ask a very simple question. It's almost there.
There's no assertion, is there?
We're
This is
almost
just
there.
posturing now.
We're almost there. So would the universe be bigger or smaller if it wasn't expanding?
You can't say unless you got something to base that on.
Holy shit. We can't say, okay, if option A is a universe that is expanding and option B is a universe that isn't expanding, which universe is bigger?
Which one? What makes you think the universe isn't expanding?
No. Answer my question.
I'm not answering your question.
Oh, because you're just a bad faith actor, right?
No, because you're a bad faith actor. You're expecting me. You're trying to get me to concede that the universe isn't expanding. Why are you doing that?
No, I'm not. I'm not asking you to concede that at all. Actually, I asked you. You said it wasn't necessarily the case that the universe would be smaller just because it wasn't, which is ridiculous.
No, you're the one asserting that it would be smaller. You're trying to allude the universe is going to be smaller as a consequence of the Earth being in the middle. Where are you getting the shit from?
Okay, so let's walk through it. If the Earth is in the middle, then we don't need the explanation of accelerative expansion and dark energy. If the universe is not accelerating and expanding, then of course it would be smaller than a universe that is in a constant state of accelerative expansion.
And how much smaller is it going to be?
Okay, so you can see that it would be smaller.
No, you're the one asserting it's going to be smaller. Why?
Bro, can we switch to dude? Can we do Witsit versus McToon? Pazza is so annoying. He doesn't even steelman the globe model, dude.
If McToon's
annoying.
Here, yeah, go for it.
Well, wait, Pazza, you're just being dishonest.
It's all about
no. It could be vast, yeah, but not expanding. Now, why are you suddenly making it smaller?
Okay, well, it's just smaller than you understand. It would be smaller.
Then you don't need the same speeds, dude. What's wrong with you? It's not complicated.
Look, Q-Up, what are you doing? I'm talking to
Even
Witsit.
if it's smaller, it'll be a globe still, right? It's just globe smaller.
It's almost like retarded level of autism when you do that.
I might be a little autistic. I don't know. I just wanted to make
We'll just stop doing it.
Like, let's say like you win this argument and the Earth and the universe is like smaller. It's still a globe in this case. This is not a flat Earth.
Go to the dark side. Go,
dude. It's literally it's literally a non-point, bro. Like
it's a non-point.
Geocentrism means Earth-centered. It's independent of shape. It's literally independent of shape. Factually,
wouldn't it make sense with the symmetry of the sky you saw with the sun rotation in the south?
Witsit, why are you invoking Hubble?
Dude, I just had him, dude. Come
What
on,
do you
dude.
mean?
What the fuck?
Well, you're
dude?
asking me if the observation makes sense on a globe. Yes,
Oh.
of course it does.
Oh yes. Keep going. Keep going.
That's it. What? Oh my God, that totally means what?
I don't know.
You're gonna affirm the consequent and say that proves that the Earth's a globe?
Just come out as a globey. Do it tonight.
Well, I don't think the Earth's a globe, or I would have done it right when I got back, and then I could have just grifted and made plenty of money.
Why are you invoking Hubble, Witsit?
Why would I not?
Why don't you ask what shape did Hubble think the Earth was?
Hey,
oh my God, that is so.
You gonna invoke all of
saying
him, or
that.
just
That's the
what you
dumbest
cherry
fallacy
pick?
ever. That's literally the dumbest fallacy someone can use.
AI
probably.
overview. Edwin Hubble did not state that a geocentric universe makes the universe smaller.
Oh my God! What he
Who
stated
said that?
was if the interpretation, there was like a list of them, one of them was recessional velocity, etc., of redshift. Do you even know what happened? Do you understand that we expected to look out and see all the galaxies moving independent of the Earth? We're supposed to see redshift and blueshift in all directions. We did not expect to see a symmetrical distribution in all directions centered on our observational position. It was not expected. So when we created those telescopes that were able to see
Listen to him
further,
flailing
it
around
was
and
a
in denial of what
shocking
he said earlier on.
discovery. Why are you just like interrupting with nothing of value?
Okay, carry on with the graffiti.
No, this is very highly specific to your point that was stupid.
You said Edwin Hubble stated if it was geocentric, it would mean the universe is smaller. And 10 seconds took me. Edwin Hubble did not state the geocentric universe makes the universe smaller.
Time out. Well, let me correct. So if you actually go back and listen to it, I was very specific to not start to invoke what Hubble said until after I said the geocentric part, right? I did not attribute
You're
the geocentric.
such a flapper,
I did
Witsit.
not
You're never changing,
No.
are you?
It's recorded.
You're never going to change.
It's recorded. It's recorded.
I know.
Never did I say.
You're smashing the
universe is
conversation by
geocentric.
going back on what you said 30 minutes ago.
Stop interrupting me, dude. The thing is, right? The only
you're
thing
right.
you can
I ain't
do
going to
here
stop
is use the
interrupting
tactic
you.
of shut the fuck
carry
up.
on to
Shut
Get on
up.
with your preaching.
That's the only tactic you can use, is knowing I have to actually unpack a lot of information due to all the bullshit you say, and then not letting me do it. So then if you can just interrupt every 4 words, you don't get any coherent response, and you can pretend I was wrong about something. It's the stupidest thing I've ever heard. Just stop doing it.
And then if we mute them, then they'll say they were censored. Can we just not have to mute anyone, and can no one interrupt? Is it possible we can hear an actual good back and forth? Witsit, can you continue, because you got interrupted?
Yeah.
Can just no one interrupt, please?
So I kind of like already laid it out, right? Which is that if the Earth was in the center, then we wouldn't have to have invoked accelerative expansion to explain the observations, for example, like what Hubble observed. Okay, so then you have the geocentric position right there. No accelerative expansion. We expect to see all of the observations in deep space to be centered on the Earth. We expect to see the galaxies rotate in a like seemingly annual procession. We expect to see everything moving in relation to the Earth the way that we saw it. The alternative position was like, oh, well, it just looks like that because everything's accelerating, expanding away from every other point, like an ant on a balloon. So we look like we're in the center, even though we're not, just an illusion. That was the whole foreground. We laid all that out. So when I then quote Hubble and I say, so like he's explaining, if we actually were geocentric, meaning if it actually was an accelerative expansion, we saw the illusion wasn't an illusion, we actually were in the center. I just explained all that, and you just omit that, which is really annoying. So then if that were the case, he goes on to explain that if the fundamental assumptions about what redshift are, primarily that there's an accelerative expansion, it then progresses into an accelerative one, by the way. It was originally just an expansion. Then the universe would be finite. It would be much more dense. It would be much more local and suspiciously young. And he absolutely did say that.
If you had for the geocentric position with the globe and the universe spinning around it to make sense, you would need the ether also to explain away Airy's failure with the horizontal component of the aberration changing.
Well, Airy's failure is another huge problem for the idea that the Earth's not moving in general.
That's what I'm saying. But if you have a vacuum just around a geocentric ball, Airy's failure still doesn't make sense if the ball's not moving. Well, whether or not the ball's moving or not, you need the ether.
And that's kind of an important. It's kind of an important point, Q up, right? That all this cosmology, geocentric cosmology, is based around the geometry of the universe and the geometry of the Earth. So it works for a spherical Earth, but it does not support flat Earth in any way, shape.
How are you saying my point has anything to do with what you just said?
It's not irrelevant, right?
Is that an aneurysm?
It is irrelevant.
Did you just have a stroke in front of us? Are you okay? Please call somebody.
Well,
You need the
said
fundamental
the shape of the Earth
geometry
is
of
not
your
relevant.
universe to be understood before you can look at the advanced cosmology.
I love it when flat earthers say the shape of the Earth's not relevant.
It's not relevant to whether or not the Earth's in the center. It's just objectively not.
But if I put it in the center, I put it in the center and use all the mechanics you want to use, you're still talking about a spherical Earth, aren't you?
Yeah.
Aren't you?
No, it doesn't have to be a spherical Earth, right?
No, it's all on one side. The universe is all on one side. It's all on one side.
This is the reason why I realize like I have to just push it to the front again, because you guys still don't understand any of it. For example, when I invoke like you're always interrupting, I get it. Whenever I invoke like the neo-Tychonic system or the kinematic and dynamic equivalence, you guys think I'm like claiming that to be true, despite me clarifying over 400 times I'm not doing that, and I'm only having to correct you in your own belief because you're ignorant of what it is and don't even comprehend the implications of relativity and what your own belief system dictates you concede. I have to now go back to teach you what your belief is, so we can even pretend to have an intellectual discussion.
You're not teaching anybody anything, Witsit.
Oh, I literally am. I just had to teach you that actually, according to relativity, there isn't a finite speed to light.
All we hear is a wittering religitard.
You claim dude, you're just completely devolving into poisoning the well and ad homs at this point. That's what you
poisoning
got?
the well.
Bro, British people's insults are so weird.
That's what that was. That was poisoning the well. Yeah.
Oh.
You're trying to preemptively discredit. You're trying to preemptively discredit me to the audience because I'm religious. Okay, I'm not religious, but
not because you're
religious.
You're not religious? Oh my god!
No, believing in God is literally. I'm believing there's no God is actually stupid. So whatever, cool story, bro. But do you understand what I just said? That I'm just correcting your belief. Just like when you said, "Oh no, we know that Earth can't be in the center because the universe would have to go with super crazy speeds, faster than the speed of light." I'm like, wait, what says there's a speed of light? You said, "Oh, it's a law of physics."
Quoting a load of people, right, who also, on top of everything they say that you're asserting, don't think they were in the center of the universe, isn't going to help anybody.
That isn't relevant, dude. Yeah,
no, I'm not. Why should I listen to all his blathering on about what other people say when all those people don't think the Earth is in the center of the universe?
First of all, why did they say they don't listen? Why did they say they don't believe it? Why did they say they don't believe the Earth's in the center of the universe? What was
the reason why? Have you got the reason why?
They say it's weird. They never give an explanation of why. They say it'd be uncomfortable or it would be a terrible.
They give reasonings why. It's just not scientific. They give reasonings why. Almost all of them, without fail, address it at one point in their career, right? And we're talking about anyone from Hubble to Stephen Hawking, and there's a long list of people, right? Astronomers, physicists, all this. They address it, right? And what they say is, well, it could be in the center, and actually there are perfectly functional models of it in the center, and we actually don't have any proof of it not being at the center, and all observations can be explained with the central Earth. But we prefer to reject that notion on philosophical grounds. Primarily, that it is true. I have an entire
none of them are comfortable with the idea of.
I have an entire 3.5 hour stream where I go through 300 something quotes, and all the retards just claim that they're cherry picked, despite literally not one of them being cherry picked. Literally not one of them being cherry picked.
Witsit, cite me if you would entertain me with a citation of a physicist in this field who's happy with the idea of galaxies hurtling around us at super luminal speeds.
Okay, I already did.
No, you didn't. That's not a citation. You're just saying something. That's not a citation. This isn't Bible class.
What? Okay, you want a specific citation?
Yeah, you go on and put one in the text chat.
Okay, I'll have to. All I have to do is go to my YouTube channel and look up the stream, which you could definitely do that. Right?
Has your YouTube stream got a citation in the comments or something that I can go and check against what you're saying?
Well, they're all up on the screen, and then typically I drop all the citations in the Telegram accompanied with that.
Okay, can you give me one? Just give me one of those, and I'll have a read, and I'll come back tomorrow.
I'm not just going through all the citations in my freaking Telegram.
Just one.
Okay. I'm about to go to. I have to go.
Isn't it worth having one of these at hand for these conversations? It's almost like you don't want to present them.
It's not. No.
Oh, okay.
No, I mean maybe it would be, but it's not worth actually compiling.
So with all due respect, Witsit, how can I tell the difference between what you're telling me now and just citation that's blatherings?
Well, if you were actually interested in the truth, as opposed to some like gotcha get out of jail card in the conversation because you're getting dunked on, and that's why you're incessantly interrupting me and I have to just keep talking through you.
Okay, go on then.
If you were actually interested in the truth, you'd be like,
I'd look for citations.
You'd be like, if what he's saying is true, I could easily fact check that. You would then go look it up. You don't ever do that, though.
You do my own research. I get a Witsit, yeah.
Yeah, isn't that just such a novel idea?
He's asking if you want to have that in hand, like these conversations are planned out or something.
Yeah, and it's by the way, it'll be endless.
Witsit must be telling the truth then, so the Earth must be flat.
Can we switch it from Witsit versus Daza versus
regardless if Witsit telling the truth, Earth is flat, no matter what.
There we are. Yeah,
we could just not have Elbow talk at all. It'd be great.
Witsit's come into a room and told me the universe, so therefore it must be.
Oh, I'm just gonna go find the one that I cover this specific topic, which is the idea that the universe can't be geocentric because the stars would have to go too fast, and then I just use a bunch of hostile witnesses to show you guys don't even know what you're saying, and that's because you just repeat what you hear other people say.
Okay,
that's what this really boils down to, right?
Wow, that's a hypocritical statement.
Okay, where did you read that it would require it be faster than the speed of light? Go ahead. Where'd you read that?
It would only have to be faster if you keep the distances the same. Why are we still fucking going over the same things? Fuck my life.
No, but I'm saying time out. Even in that scenario, where did you read that would be impossible? Like, where did you get that idea from? I want to know if any of them even know where it comes from.
Okay, so if it's going around, let's put it this
way.
Where
does it come from?
All right, well, let me try and explain my rationale.
No, don't explain to me. Tell me where it came from.
I'm not going to talk to you if you're not going to let me. I'll just let you bang on.
Don't say what you want to say, don't say what you want to say. Say what he wants you to say.
No. The point is that you guys are on and on about citations, but then I point out you're only repeating what you heard someone else say. You dispute that. I say, okay, then where did this come from?
Just go get the citation, please.
Hey, Jack, you're not interested. You're not involved in the conversation.
You said you were going to get it. Just get it, and let's pick up right after you get it.
The point is, you guys don't even know it came from Einstein. You don't even know it came from Einstein later in his life. You guys don't even know that. Now that I'm giving you that information because you didn't read it, you haven't read any of Einstein, you don't comprehend Einstein, you've never researched any of this, and you're just repeating what you've heard other people say. Now that I've told you it came from Einstein, you'll just incorporate that with your new claim. You'll just claim you knew it the whole time, and you'll just start saying
citation?
What
do we have?
Do you want me to tell you the story? The year before Einstein died so originally he conceded to the Machian principle, right? And actually wrote an apology letter to Mach saying, like, Ernst Mach saying, sorry if you had got a lot of flack on my behalf, because originally I thought that what you were saying was not true and I dismissed it improperly. Turns out that not only is what you're suggesting or proposing possible, it's literally required to be true if my theory is to be taken seriously. For my theory to even be possible, what you said, the Machian principle, has to exist. Okay? And this was a major issue that he struggled with for many years in his life. And then you get all the way to the year before he died, and then supposedly, where he does all kinds of flip-flops, and his personal diaries get completely insane. He calls Japanese people dogs. He just goes insane at the end of his life. The year before he dies, he then has one quote that you can attribute to him where he says something about, oh, well, we know this can't be true, though, although the Machian principle is valid and I have to concede to it. And it does show that there's a dynamic equivalence.
Okay.
We know it isn't true because then, as someone else has demonstrated, so he invoked someone else who basically bailed him out before he died. As someone else has demonstrated, the universe would have to go much faster than the speed of light. So then what has happened since then is he didn't even understand his own mathematics, which isn't a surprise because he didn't do them. He literally didn't do them. He just stole them from everyone else and let other people do it for him and made plenty of mistakes. Oh, you didn't know that? You didn't know that? You didn't know that?
Yeah, he didn't understand any of his own math Witsit.
Yeah, you didn't even know that.
He only stole everybody else's. He didn't do any of it himself.
That's right.
That's not a claim at all, is it?
That's
Let's
right.
all take a 30-second break so Witsit can get that citation, please.
The 4D space geometry, who proposed that?
But Einstein later refuted the Machian principle. He said, no,
he didn't.
It can't work.
If everything is close enough that none of it is going around as 24 hours a day, and everything is not going as fast as the speed of light, that means virtually everything we see in the universe must be closer than what we think Uranus is as close to us now.
Okay.
Does anyone know where the name Uranus comes from in Greek?
Oh, well, let's move on to that. That's an important thing to discuss right now.
But wait, do you guys hear how Leftwing
It's
just jumped in?
interesting. It means heaven. So you guys taking the word heaven, which was like describing the ether, and making that a planet. It's weird.
I
Wasted
detail the
oxygen to
history
say
of what
that.
happened, and then Leftwing jumps in at the end to say he disproved the Machian principle. That isn't what happened at all. I just told you what happened though, Leftwing. Like he never once in his life claimed the Machian principle wasn't true. In fact, it's acknowledged to be true to this day in your own belief system. The belief, the claim is that although true in principle and practical application of the current universe model, it wouldn't work because it would require the more distant stars and planet systems to be traveling faster than the speed of light. This is also a very low level misnomer and a misunderstanding though. That's why I invoked the like subject matter expert in relativity who breaks down all the math explaining that in the presence of strong gravitational fields and big enough masses that according to even relativity itself, you could largely exceed the speed of light.
So who in the scientific community is comfortable in shrinking the entire universe down from where it is currently to being in the dimensional sphere?
Who the hell cares who's comfortable in
Okay,
this?
fine.
Fuck?
Go on in. It's not a point, is it, Q up?
Well, again,
No,
you
who
don't have
cares
to
a
about
field
that?
server to go check on or something?
Yeah,
Dr. Phil, I'm sorry.
Q up's got a problem with people talking to Witsit. That's what it is.
What?
Including his wife. Including his wife.
Yeah, I do because I want to fucking debate him. I fucking yes, I do. I hate you talking to Pazza, dude. It's fucking annoying.
We are.
It's like the third time you try to force that in.
The best thing
I want to debate him on like 3 different things, dude.
All right, can we reset? I think Pazzo was the last one that got interrupted. You guys, can please no one interrupt because we don't want to have to like mute people and play the cat and mouse game. So can we just not? And we want to have something to we can hear what's being said. So Pazzo, do you want to finish your point?
Yeah, I've got to go, and I'd like to citate. I'll come back and discuss it further. But I would like to know who in the scientific community who would even elude or entertain the idea that we're in the middle, the Earth's in the middle. We don't need all these massive forces. Don't need dark matter. We could shrink everything down to be much smaller. Who of them is excited by the notion of everything we see in the entire cosmos?
How does that matter if they're not?
Oh, there we go. I'm going. Bye.
You're welcome.
But no, now you just give him like a life jacket to claim like he was censored. I mean, like again, I already point. First of all, it's like you guys don't listen. You just wait to speak. So it's kind of like I just
want
kind
to
of waste
say
my
that
time.
I don't know if you guys can hear me as a bar, but I love all you guys. And
we hate you.
So like he just goes back to like who in the scientific community would say that they're comfortable shrinking the universe. I just pointed out you don't have to shrink the universe in your own paradigm, but there are plenty of people that acknowledge that if the latter method, which by the way, like the different methods that we have in your paradigm of determining distance and luminosity and sizes, they don't even match up. So like it's well known that it's a highly speculative field, okay, of interpretation. You could absolutely change the inputs and the variables and the interpretations of those variables and get a much more local system. And that is just
All
a
right.
fact.
Next debate. You want to debate me and Blob on germ theory?
No, why would I? What? No, I don't.
Do you want to
believe in
debate? Do you want to debate me on the Bible's translation?
No.
Do you want to debate me on me possibly being a better lover for your ex-wife?
No.
Do we allow this, Gio?
If you said that in real life around a group of men, Q-Up, you would get beat up.
Who would I get beat up? But
by the way, so enjoy
Witsit
the
could definitely
internet.
take you. Gio,
what did
are we gonna let this continue? Crickets when we need mods. Holy shit!
Don't be talking about people's fucking ex-wives and stuff.
Wow, there's a lot of people got offended by that one.
This is you're freaking doing stupid
Honestly,
shit.
I think you're like an incel.
This is not what this server's about. That's why you have nobody in your server.
Bro, it was like a joke for like a split second.
Bullshit.
You guys are like crying.
But it's like the
Doesn't
fourth
matter,
time.
dude.
But
It's not
you're
crying.
an incel, bro.
You're always insulting people.
You're so sad.
Kill, if you said that stuff to someone in a restaurant, you get knocked out, mate.
Why is it okay?
Not just one.
Control yourself.
Okay,
Right? I've muted you. Control yourself, or just go somewhere else. Like, don't come in here
What is
hurling
going on, dude? You
filth
guys
at
are
people.
such
It's just not
pussies, dude.
welcome, not
I would
necessary.
say this shit to Witsit's face.
Like,
I'd
either
love
get
to
off
meet
the
him.
pingers or
that
go
wouldn't be the
somewhere
great
else.
idea.
Listen. I would meet all you cheerleaders and Witsit and say this to you guys. Where do you want to
You're a
meet?
degenerate. You don't have fucking standards. That's why. I'm in the Northeast. You're a fucking degenerate, dude. You look
now
at
I'm
the
a
things you
degenerate
do.
before
Messaging other people's fucking wives and then using them for little jokes. That's degenerate. The things you say in like primally, if like I said, if there was a room full of men, you would get beat, you would get pummeled. You would have multiple boots on your head, dude.
By you
guys? You go too far.
Yeah, straight up, bro. I mean, I'm down
so scared of you.
You're the only one that goes this far.
Scared.
Gate breaker, you're fucking retarded and you woke me up, you asshole.
Yeah, we're whatever, dude. Whatever. Let's get back with the comment.
Don't even follow
I'm
that.
so glad all the Witsits.
No, Q up. It's good to have you here, bro. But like the other guy said, just chill out, man.
No,
with that, with those jokes in particular.
Now we all know who Witsits cucks are. Good job, you guys.
Yeah, just fucking shut up, dude.
Oh, because I don't like someone thinking X.
I would have stood up for you too. Witsit would have said that to you as well.
No, all right. Let's move on. Let's give him the chance to decide to not do that. All right, please.
I offered 2 other debates. I mean, he didn't take any of them.
But he wants to talk to you, bro.
Can we get back on track? You mentioned the cosmic ladder before. Where does that start to break down?
Like if you look
what
at the
distances don't we know?
Well, no, it's specifically like when you compare the different methods. So if you look at like the ladder method with the other way that we determine the like Hubble constant, the numbers don't actually match. I mean, so
you're not talking about using the cosmic ladder to measure the solar system. We've got
well,
that.
we use that method, but what shows that it isn't true is that it doesn't match the Hubble constant. So like you can't have your cake and eat it too, which is what modern astronomy does. So like if the ladder
at the
method
solar
was
system
true,
level, you're talking here. Where does the Hubble constant come into measuring the dimensions of the solar system?
well, why do we always? What are we, cavemen? Why do we always just limit it to the solar system?
Well, we've got to start with some solid foundations, right, and know what we know and accept what we need to accept. So that the ladder, the cosmic ladder for measuring the dimensions of the solar system works very well, right?
I don't really use the ladder method for the solar system that much. I mean, like we use it for vast distances. Like the primary method of distances for the solar system is like the ratio of the assumed dimensions of Earth. Then you take the radii and periodicity of the planet's movement in relation to the Earth and the Sun, and then you get like a ratio of that, and you can use trig.
It's so not the assumed dimensions of Earth. That the base of the ladder is a known measured physical distance on the Earth, right? We know these dimensions on the surface of the Earth, and we can then apply them to infer other dimensions based on observation.
Okay, so do you know the ladder is like when we're looking at a star super far away, for example, we don't use the cosmic distance ladder for the solar system. Okay. So
doesn't start at the Earth. You measure a distance on the Earth, then you work out the distance to the Sun, then you can work out the dimensions of the solar system and the other planets, and then you can leverage those things to go out into space.
No. I mean, I can tell you would maybe think that's logically how it works, but no. The cosmic ladder system is for like distant observations, specifically somewhere where you can't implement like a procedure like that, right? So it's like we're just going to see a star and they're going to have to try to figure out how far away that star is. So they're going to use luminosity and all these other things. And it requires so many assumptions, it's like insane, right? Like elemental composition and age and blah, blah, blah. It really, you got like mass and luminosity are the big ones, but totally different than anything to do with the solar system. And we know this is a highly speculative thing, right? Just so if we just point that out, the variables that go into the ladder are speculative. So like use any individual, use Polaris, which in the grand scheme of things is a very local star. But Polaris is considered to be very local, right? Like the distance to Polaris, like the agreed upon distance has changed like 100 million light or like 100 light years in like the last couple decades. So like
the last couple of decades.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sounds like a very short time period. So is that like nearly an order of magnitude change in the distance, or
pretty crazy? Yeah, like 30% or whatever. Yeah. So like it went from like 300 to 200 something or 400 to 300 light years. But anyway, and I just bring that up because that's like a local star, right? So it would be insane to act like we knew definitively. But by the way, I'll just say anytime I've talked to like astronomers off the record, they never have a problem conceding stuff like this. Like never ever. Like they're like, well, yeah, we know we don't actually know for sure the distances of stars and stuff. Like we think we have a pretty good idea. But it's all like it's like dominoes. Like they're all dependent upon each other. Like if any of the base assumptions are wrong, any of the base distances are wrong, you just tip over that domino, all the other distances would change. So it's even beyond that. So like the actual inputs to the ladder system are highly speculative. It requires us literally just make educated guesses. Then the ladder method itself is in contention because you get the Hubble tension problem because it doesn't actually match the Hubble constant, which it would have to if correct. So then it's like, well, if the Hubble constant's not correct, now we have a huge, huge problem with the universe as a whole and the accelerative expansion. But if the ladder method's not giving us the Hubble constant, then if the Hubble constant was true, that would mean that the ladder method was incorrect, which is all of our distances and luminosities and masses. And so it's just a known problem. And then, apologists always try to downplay it. And they'd be like, oh, well, look, it's really not that big of a difference. That it does what? No, first of all, it is a huge difference, right? They're just trying to say, like, in context, relatively not that big. It is a huge difference, numbers that would blow all of our minds. But beyond that, it doesn't matter. It has to be the same. If they're both correct, they would be the same. It's considered one of the biggest problems in modern cosmology, right? It's called the Hubble tension problem. So
yeah, we have a lot of uncertainty in cosmology. That's for sure. There are some things we do know and some we don't. But I agree that we don't know everything with detail because we can't. Right? We can only observe from a distance. But there's plenty of stuff that we do know, and yeah, you're not going to like this, but it contradicts your foundation at a base level, right? You can talk about the cosmological crisis and all the problems we have with cosmology, but you need something to also support your fundamental understanding of our local environment as well. And
yeah, but the difference is like my position is like 1,000 times more bulletproof in every step of the way. So like,
now yours is flawed at the basic step. You're flawed from the ground floor, right? Your fundamental assumption about the nature of the universe and solar system is incorrect.
No, that's what you're just projecting though. Like, so if you actually go to the smallest scale, like if you actually zoom all the way out and understanding like how the universe, right? You have like the quantum scale and you go all the way up to the cosmic scale, right? My position is 1,000 times more viable from the smallest scale to the biggest scale. It's not even close. It's laughably not even close. So like all
But
of
you're
quantum
broken in the middle
doesn't
then, right?
the local scale, right? So yeah, you have like the quantum, the local, the cosmic scale. Yeah, my position is superior in all. For one, whatever is true about the quote unquote quantum scale has to be true on the local scale and the cosmic scale because of course the local and cosmic scale are literally comprised of the quantum scale. So like any physics governing the smallest scale or the biggest scale have to comport with each other. And modern physics is so retarded that it literally just separates them.
So you have a model for physics that works from quantum to cosmic scales?
Yeah. I mean, specifically, it's much more viable, right? So, like, when you move the goalpost in a second and act like I need to explain all existing phenomena to your arbitrary standard of satisfaction, that isn't a relevant rebuttal. Because I know that's where this always goes, right? Which is funny because it's like such a bad faith suggestion or whatever. Like, oh, I'm supposed to replace centuries and billions of dollars and millions of people working on models and every observation ever observed by mankind, or the remains true or something. No. Falsification is independent of replacement. My position is just simple. Like, my general idea and understanding is more viable. So, like, for example, an ether model where everything is electric and magnetic is significantly more viable, and I could give you countless examples of it. And
So
chuckling
what does
will
that
never rebut
say?
it.
So we go from the quantum, we go through to the macro, and look at the world around us. What does your model tell you about the world around us?
Everything is electric, and magnetism is the fundamental force of nature, and we live in an electric universe that's geocentric. Everything is interconnected. Everything is a modality of the same primary source. There has to be a background medium that all physical phenomena arises from. And, that right there is like a simple meta. Just right there, if I just stop right there, it's way better than your guys' belief. Like, your belief is all over the place. It's contradictory. It doesn't make any sense, and it's stupid. It's like the quantum scale is a magical place that doesn't comport to the rest of physics. And well, that's retarded. Like, literally retarded. Like, if whatever you think about the quantum scale is true, it would be true on all their scales. Gravity is a perfect example of that. Like, wherever any mass is present, gravity has to exist. If our understanding of gravity is true, it would be on the quantum scale and all their scales, and it doesn't work on the cosmic or quantum scale.
Well, the in the quantum scale itself, it's contradicting itself in its own scale.
That's true too, yes. And this is because the fundamental assumptions of quantum mechanics is wrong. But there's not like little bumping balls everywhere. That's just made up. So, whatever. And if you really want to get
What's
down
funny
to it,
is they took the emission theory and undulatory theory and combined them, and that's what Einstein pretty much did.
Well, I do pretty much do that with light specifically, for sure. Like, what is so funny about it, though, and I know this is definitely going to rub people the wrong way, but what it really comes down to is a naturalist assumption. It's a naturalist bias, a materialistic bias. So it's like, if you limit your understanding of the universe to materialistic naturalism, then you're automatically not going to be able to explain things if it's not actually strictly material, right? And it's not. So that's the real problem. I mean, people don't like to hear that, but what people don't understand, like, the more intelligent minds throughout all of science history has understood that science and philosophy is inextricably linked, and you really can't get away from that. The scientific method, fundamentally philosophical. Like, we have fundamental philosophical assumptions that dictate how we even view any scientific question in the first place. Like, that's what you guys don't think. So, like, there's so many people that they think they're so above religion or God or metaphysical questions or philosophy, and that they're just naturalists that stick straight to empirical sciences. But ironically, they're not. All of their beliefs are flooded with philosophy. Naturalism in and of itself is philosophical. And this is not some like random deflection or obfuscation. This is the most important point. With quantum, people believe in naturalism, which is a philosophy. So it's contradictory to believe that nothing exists outside of like natural processes. That's a philosophy. So it literally self-refuted. Like, it's so stupid. But anyway, the point is that if you assume that and you go look at quantum, you're like, well, it has to be something material. And so therefore we can quantify it. So if that assumption's incorrect, then you've like pigeonholed yourself, right? And this is why now what quantum does is they just pretend that it's magic. Oh my God, we're basically in a simulation. Oh my God, nothing's real. Like, it's like inexplicable. It's so stupid.
I'm making a video on
Aren't you also doing that with it?
Bro, It's pretty much like Jewish mysticism. It's like it's what's it called, the Kabbalion, or like as above so below, all those things. It's pretty much like everything. The universe is mental. It's like Jewish mysticism that quantum physics is pretty much that created into like a pseudoscience theory.
Ironically, Kabbalah is like way more accurate, right? Like Kabbalah, like the actual belief of Kabbalah, like it acknowledges the metaphysical on a crazy level, right? Like it talks about basically it's like that the tree of life and the tree of knowledge and good and evil are the same tree that is
Well, I don't
fundamentally
think it's
good.
all nonsense, but the
No,
universe,
a lot of it isn't
universe, the mental
nonsense.
thing, that's like a manifestation type, Jewish thing.
Kabbalah is super metaphysical, is all I'm saying, right? Like they believe in the power of manifestation. It's basically like the belief in the demiurge, the belief of like omnipotence and like you are a god. Ironically, Kabbalah aligns a lot with what I've heard you say.
No, that's what I'm saying. I agree with a lot of it, but like, so where they take it too far is like, so there is like some aspects where you can like your mind is very powerful. So they kind of make people believe it's completely powerful to the point where like everyone can have their own reality, and that's where they give everyone like you can have your own genders, and they go too far with it, and they kind of try to
yeah. But the reason that they push the gender thing, we're getting off in the weeds, but the reason they push the gender thing into the public psyche is because they believe in the overcoming of duality. So it's like you have to take the dark and light path. You have to know the good and the evil within oneself and conquer both. You also have to conquer the physical limitation of gender.
Yeah, that's what their whole thing is, like Hermes and Aphrodite. The whole the Baphomet character is literally half of like of that
it's
duality.
Like a hermaphrodite.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know what's such a trip though? So like what I've found is that when you like the whole like Faustian deal that you're given 3 options. And option 1 is that you'll get basically everything you want and you'll get insane fame. They'll put you in your position, whatever. This is even for pro athletes. They'll put you in the position that you want to be the greatest, whatever, Kobe Bryant, for example. You have 3 options. One of them is that at the end of the story, then you're sacrificed. The second one is that you have to let them kill someone close to you. You have to agree to have someone else close to you sacrificed, and it normally will happen right when like a huge thing of your career happens, like the major like generational run starts. Then your brother dies, your sister dies, your daughter dies, whatever. They prefer your firstborn son if possible. And then the third one is well, I don't know. It's kind of this one's kind of disputed, right? But like it seems like an entry into a lot of it is like letting them do something gay to you, like doing gay stuff. But the third one is like letting them transition your children. So like a version of sacrificing your children is transitioning them. That's why you see a bunch of these like famous families and like Dwayne Wade and all these people, they transition their children because they preferred that than agreeing to dying or letting someone close to them die. Anyway, that's conspiratorial. It's like supposed whistleblowers.
Let me ask a question real quick. Can I give up my firstborn son if he's like 20 something? Like 20 years old or 19?
You just got to kick him out of the house.
Yes. You can give up. They don't care. It just has to be someone you truly care about.
Wait, Brian, get an alert that
they normally want someone that's really close to you.
Why I'm gonna use 20? I'm gonna use this to tighten his ass up, man. I'm gonna use this to tighten him up. I'm gonna say, dude.
So look, I obviously don't know if this is true. I'm just saying, like, the idea is crazy. The idea is pretty crazy. If you go back and look at Hollywood and pro athletes thinking about this, like, just look at it, bro. Like Kanye West, his mom dies right when he starts to really become famous. Eminem, someone close to him died right when he really became famous.
You guys think Kanye West and Eminem are still the same ones?
I don't know, but I'm just saying that like this goes for everybody. And then Kobe Bryant, he died and immediately LeBron passed him in scoring all time. And then the very next game, which was in Philadelphia, which is where Kobe Bryant is from, has like a chopped up snake logo on the court randomly, which is makes no sense, but it's the Black Mamba. Obviously, his death was predicted in a helicopter crash, like in cartoons, multiple times. Like he literally dies in helicopters in cartoons while holding his trophies, and the list goes on and on and on. Right, like he
In
passes him with
Simpsons?
33,000 points. He wears he's now his final team he's going to at the end of his career is to go to the 76ers in Philadelphia. He has that like occulted tattoo on his chest, which is the secret society that was founded in Philadelphia. And yeah, it just goes on and on. Like this is his 24th season, which was Kobe Bryant's number, which is 24. Blah blah blah.
So I
It's
have a
all
question.
occultic.
You guys, so their family stays behind and it stays the same like characters, right? And they still have to like, and they so are they? I'm not sure if they're acting or that he just kind of like doesn't he like signs up for these things and doesn't tell them and they think he's dead. Like I'm not sure. What do you
I
guys
think it's
think?
probably that. I think it's probably that. Because I think you're not allowed to say anything. I don't really know. This is the only information you would ever have on this is like supposed whistleblowers. You know what I mean? Like, and they all kind of say the same thing. Like Bob said the same thing. I don't think Bob's publicly said this, but that like they pick him up, you know, and there's like a Jewish.
What do you
Um,
what do you think of? Are you like what are which character flips are you familiar with? Like that you think are like do you know about Jimi Hendrix to Morgan Freeman,
yeah,
Hitler
I
to
mean,
Walt
yeah,
Disney,
yeah, I
and
know a
then
lot about that.
one of the crazy ones is who is the comedian that the really funny comedian
Alex Jones,
from
Robin
oh
Williams.
that's an easy one. Robin Williams. Do you know who Robin Williams switched to?
Yeah, I've seen that one too. I saw that one a couple days ago.
He's
Hey,
that Egyptian comedian.
Yeah, I
what's
mean,
it?
I don't really
Careful
know
how
about
you.
those. I don't talk about those.
Dude,
Pastor Phil from Family Guy.
if you watch Bassem, his name's Bassem Youssef. If you look up a YouTube video of him doing stand up, it's fucking the mannerisms and like the way he like I could literally see Robin Williams like inside him. It's so crazy.
Yeah,
Careful how you respond to Witsit because he despises you, bro. Careful how
okay.
he's
All
gonna
right,
bait.
bro. All right. Can we just stay out of the personal stuff?
Careful,
I don't
bro.
care.
Yeah, sure.
Um,
I'm just telling you.
I know, I don't care. So, but like, I got off in the weeds there. The main point I was making is that the like the interpretation of quantum and basically all of this is tainted by a philosophical bias. Until the people on the other side, like even in this room, like the people that believe in the heliocentric globe theory and evolution and all this like mainstream nonsense, until you guys understand that what you believe in and was given to you is derived from a philosophical bias, you're being tricked, right? Believe whatever you want to believe. I don't care. But you actually don't know what you believe until you understand that. And that is, it's just a fact. It is not
No,
just
Keith
science.
Johnson
It
as
is not
fuck.
just the empirical evidence. It is a philosophical bias. And I've spent years trying to show you guys this. And it's like you guys haven't even like brought yourself to look at it. It's almost like it's just too uncomfortable to look at or something. Right? Like it's like they tell you this in their writings, the very people that you would prop up and say they're the experts that discovered all this stuff for you. They tell you, right? They tell you that, well, like we interpret it this way because of philosophical, like when you look at Stephen Hawking, right? Like one of the most famous atheists ever, he admits that like he was really struggling to propose any type of explanation without there being a God and without there being a beginning to the universe. And he tried to do it until he died. But he said, like, bro, obviously a central earth, obviously a creator, obviously a beginning to the universe explains all of these questions that we have. Right. But I prefer to reject that philosophically. Like it's like they write it. That's why I know you guys don't read it because you dispute the stuff that they write. And
Yeah,
so
they
so this
all.
is what I mean
They,
by us having a superior position.
let's say the honest ones do admit it. You're right.
Most of them, like honestly, most of them do, right? Like the heavy hitters, like they do. Um, but whatever. So anyway, my point is just like we have a superior position. That's the most ironic part of it, right? Like so yes, in theory, if your guys' models were true, you would have way more answers than us. That's correct. But what you do, right, is like kind of short circuit and you equate the fact that you've been given way more answers with you being more correct if the alternative doesn't present at least as many answers. But it's very simple logic, right? If all of your answers are wrong, in order for the alternative to be superior or more viable, it can only propose 1% of the answers. It doesn't have to propose anywhere close to the same. It's still superior and more viable because your answers aren't really answers, they're wrong. You guys don't seem to get that concept yet, or like a lot of you don't, right? Like falsification's independent of replacement. Like your answers aren't true. So like I don't need to explain why would it's like, oh yeah, well then what is the universe? How would I know, bro? I can't go there. You want me to come up with a bunch of fake distances because your distances are wrong? Why would I do that? You know what I mean? Like, oh, I need to come up with the size of the galaxy. Why would I do that? So I disprove your claimed size of the galaxy. So I need to give you a new size, or your disproven size is still true somehow or something. Like, I don't get it. I don't get the
You know what's
block
funny,
there.
dude? Check this out. You know what's funny is I heard a few of them talking about why would you want to be trapped in on a flat Earth where you're domed in or whatever. Like they're saying that their model act like their model is so much better, and in their model, yeah, you're free to go to somewhere. The nearest star is like infinite distance away. Anybody could never possibly reach. It's like yeah, they're trapped just as much. You know,
Well,
a
they
lot of
think they're
space.
going to the moon and Mars soon.
Yeah.
So, Witsit, can you apply that same standard to your philosophy?
Hit
Can I ask a question?
in
Yeah.
the moon.
Can I ask a question to Witsit? You said like people admit, like Stephen Hawking and other big names admit it in their writing. Why do you think that is? If they're like working for the devil, why would they admit
Bro, Stephen
that?
Hawking did not write anything. He was literally completely handicapped.
Okay, so I don't think that like they are consciously working for the devil, right? Like those like I think that there's layers to that. The lowest layer of deception, like that saying where it's like the number one deception or trick the devil ever pulled off is to convince people he doesn't exist. Like there's actually truth to that. Like if the lowest layer of deception is convincing people that like there is no God, convincing people of materialism. If you have like useful idiots and propped up quote unquote scientific figures that are trying to explain everything from within that confinement or belief, it would be actually ignorant to introduce them to like satanic, deep occultic principles, right? It's an unnecessary risk. I'm not saying that they do or don't. I don't really know. And yeah, Stephen Hawking is sketchy altogether. But just to address the idea in general, I don't really know how much of them are satanic. I think what they do, if you read their writings, they're just like they truly believe they're delusional. So like they're lost in delusion. They're under a delusion. So like Stephen Hawking's is that's a good question. Maybe if there's any truth to Stephen Hawking writing it, you can understand why he might would have beef with the idea of there being a God, right? He'd be like, why would God let this happen to me? If God would, I mean, it could be that simple. I don't know. But if you read his writing, he's just like, he can't even formulate an intellectual position without addressing the elephant in the room because he goes to such absurd degree, like such an absurd extent to try to explain the alternative. Like when he tries to explain there being no beginning to the universe, he literally starts proposing the idea that time is like a physical shape. That's so retarded and absurd, and he admits it's absurd that he has to say, obviously, the alternative here would explain it, like there could just be a beginning. So, I mean, that would be my answer. Like if like I don't really see a ton of malevolence in it. I think ironically you may get more honesty from that group of people than the group of people that know that this is like a metaphysical place and have chosen um either chosen to like serve the evil or have fallen to a metaphysical deception, which I would say is most modern religion, right? Like Islam and Catholicism and stuff like that. I think that's actually the next layer of deception from Satanism, which is like, okay, people are going to get closer to the truth that this is a metaphysical place. So let's create these like institutions and religious constructs that are actually satanic in inception, but people don't realize it to make sure they don't actually get to the truth of it. That's a long way of saying like I just think that if you write enough, you talk about it enough, you get questioned enough, you receive enough questions, you have to kind of address the elephant in the room. And that's kind of like the vibe with every one of the examples I know of where one of these astronomers or astrophysicists or whatever give a concession like that. It's almost always in the context of like, to be fair, right? And also when you it's kind of like it's like a highly competitive field, where like everyone wants to be the guy, everyone wants to be the physicist that comes up with the revolutionary idea or theory or breakthrough. So when you're writing, it's like it's a way to stand out, to be like more forthcoming and blunt. That was like what's his name? The guy that everyone always thought was so cool. Um, Richard
Richard
Feynman. That was
Dawkins.
like Richard Feynman. Richard Feynman's whole thing was like how he would say what no physicist would say, and he would admit the stuff that they don't know. That was like his whole thing. Was like he would put on sunglasses and drink some whiskey and be like, "Well, actually, virtual particles are just a made-up construct that don't exist." That was like the reason he was famous, is he would be more transparent about what we don't really know. Ironically, Einstein was a lot like that. Tesla was a lot like that. This is like this modern era of physics is actually like it's like kind of an anomaly where everyone just plays pretend like they know things they don't know, and then they have their minions running around pretending their archaic, outdated, disproven theories are still true, and they're like they have this like illusory cockiness about it, like what you hear in this room a lot. That is not normal at all. It hasn't been the case for like all of physics history until like the last few decades. Most of the brightest people will be like, dude, we're just scratching the surface, best case. It's actually much more probable we're going to discover we're wrong about everything. So, we may not get writings like that anymore. I don't know, but it's a recent
Do you think
phenomenon.
Ghislaine Maxwell and all the other like people who control the scientific community have anything to do with it?
I think they view like the typical science communicator as retarded. Like, I mean, do they have anything? I mean, yeah, you mean like specifically Robert Maxwell being in charge of like the textbooks and stuff, like, yeah, in that way, I guess. But I
Yeah.
think that like the occultic families view atheists as retarded. So they're like useful idiots. I mean,
I
I
think
don't
it's
know. I
obvious
think
it's like electrical, man. Like the sun, just being able to grow plants, and being able to replicate that just with grow lights and electric glow lights. Show me nuclear fire or fusion fire. Show me fire growing a plant. I mean, everything about us is electrical. That's like the only possible force in nature. With maybe a couple cousins of itself, but everything around it, everything's electrical. Every force is electromagnetic. And it seems like even the mainstream people would be leaning more towards that. Like toward the electric universe, because they're trying to maintain the model for the most part. And it's like even that is just so blocked and slow rolling. As obvious as it is, it's crazy. We're getting nowhere. It seems like to me.
There's nothing obvious in physics, right? It's particularly at the cosmological scale, right? It's not an intuitive place to work, and nothing there will be obvious because we can't observe as much as we'd like to. So you can't claim that anything about the universe is
You don't
obvious.
think it's obvious? You don't think it's obvious that we're in an electromagnetic realm and we're electromagnetic by nature, through chemicals. You take you take two elements, two metals, and oxidize one of them and put them together with a dielectric, and you get electricity. Just with chemicals. You feel shocks going down your arm. We've all felt that. More or less.
It's not obvious at the scale of the solar system, though, right? Even it's not
Like I said,
obvious.
you grow a
But
plant.
why would you think that's any different? This is what I was saying earlier, right? Like the bigger scale is comprised of the smaller scale fundamentally, right? So like it has to be the same.
Oh yeah, sure.
Anything that's true about physics, it scales, right? Like if we use density, for example, like if you take the world's biggest ping pong ball and throw it in the ocean, it's still going to float. It doesn't matter if it's a ping pong ball that's a normal size or like 5 football fields big. because it's just the principle of density. It's going to always be true, and it's going to scale infinitely because it's an accurate, true law of physics. So anything that's truly accurate in physics will be accurate on all scales, physics scales. This is the easiest, most simple way to understand that the current claim of gravity is completely false. It's fundamentally false. It would be true on all scales. Why we don't have to do mental gymnastics and come up with 500 different reasons why it's not. It just isn't correct because that's how physics works. And then like the logical follow-up there is like that does make sense. Obviously what Witsit just said makes sense. So then the question is, well then why don't we do that though? Like why do they do these other approach? Like what's the reason? What's the motivation? Right. And the answer is they have a philosophical bias and everything has to fit within naturalism and materialism and everything outside of that is excluded. And so now they're pigeonholed and they really don't have many options to explain what we see.
So just to clarify there, you weren't claiming literally that density is the cause of what we perceive as gravity.
No. No, I mean, I think it's intrinsically tied to it, but no, it's definitely not just like a equivocation. Everything is fundamentally electric. There's a driving force. Like, it's not just density. Density is an effect.
Yeah, that's it. It's the effect of whatever the downwards acceleration is being applied to the fluids that are involved.
Well, downward acceleration is also an effect.
Not downwards. It's not
Yeah,
downward.
Well, either way, I want to agree with you.
We live in a field, right? Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, we do. Yes, but I mean, I just want to. The common ground would have to be specifically stated, but it's that density is not a direct replacement for everything attributed to the phenomena of quote unquote gravity. That's about as much as I can yield to you, though, right? Because as soon as we say anything further, I'm gonna have like contention with specifics. I mean, I don't know, and I always go through this bill a lot, but long story short, like little g downward acceleration is an effect. It's not even claimed to be the cause of anything. It's just an effect. So like, yeah, sometimes things go down at roughly around the same rate. That's just an effect. Little g, like not even claimed to be gravity. Little g isn't gravity. Little g is the effect of gravity.
I've spent time on this though. Check this out. So we can replicate buoyancy in any direction. All we have to do is accelerate 9.8 meters per second. We could do it laterally. We could do it at an angle. We could do it down, but we'd have to double the speed. But it's when the Globers start talking about this downward acceleration. Yeah, we measure that if we drop something, obviously, but that's not the inertial frame. And so we can, like I said, we can replicate this, and it's just so obvious. So to me, it's we live in an electric field that's all around us, and I don't know anything about what's going on outside of my reference frame, but I think that's what accelerates us up, because that to me is the best we could do to replicate, and it's scalable. It's scalable in any direction. To me, to deny that, at least deny that it's possible,
To deny that we're accelerating up.
Yeah.
Brian, it could just be a simulation, man.
All right.
It could be. You're right. I think it's
Well,
tied
okay.
in
Before we
with
debate if we're
the
accelerating up, like just a quick, just a quick point there though. Like, so density, like you have to ask yourself, like if something goes down, we agree that it's because of density though, right? Like fundamentally, density and buoyancy sort everything out. So the question is like, why? How does that happen? And so then you'd have to ask yourself, like, well, what's the cause of density? Like, if you're actually trying to, this is what like people propose gravity and they claim that they're trying to figure out the primary cause. If you're actually doing that, you would ask yourself, what's the cause of density? That would be the actual primary cause, right? Because if that's what's
You mean the cause of buoyancy, right? Density is mass per volume, right?
Right. So what's the cause of that?
You keep you keep going. Okay, so mass and volume. What is mass? Right? It's the
jamming
it's quantification of matter, but it's like a certain amount of matter inside a certain volume is where you get density. So it's compactness of matter. So then you have to ask yourself, what gives you compactness of matter? What causes that? Well, it's whatever's holding the matter together to give it a certain compactness. And the answer is static electricity. That's actually the answer. So,
absolutely. Absolutely. That's not even it. Yeah, yeah. I mean, that's obvious, man. I don't even think the Glovers don't like to admit that, man, but they agree with you because it all boils down to the charges, even in their own models, that make shit dense or less dense,
Yeah, all
So
molecular and
if
intermolecular attractive forces are electrostatic in nature. In their
so, if gravity is an electrostatic phenomenon, it's not one that we associate with what we typically know as electromagnetic fields, right? It's another. It has to be another kind of, what's the word I'm looking for? Instance. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, there's a distinction because it's not coherent, so it's not like directional. Meaning it's like it doesn't have like a preferential direction. It's incoherent. But like this is another
With
major
what does?
thing that
Sorry.
like
What was not
static
directional? I missed
electricity,
that.
like static electricity, and like so if you have like a magnetic
Oh no, that's
field,
directional. That's absolutely directional. Static electricity. The field is
is it
directional. Yep.
okay?
So that's the definition of a field, right? A field will result in a force on the object that is sensitive to that field, and static electricity generates fields
Well, you
that
just
move
used
electrons
field
in
to
a particular direction.
you just use field to define field, and electrons aren't real, right? So like it's actually field is not properly defined in modern physics. So like if you look up
There's some
the
working
definition,
definitions, though, right?
well, they're just mathematical descriptions. Like if you look up a definition of the field, it's going to tell you math, which is not a definition of anything, right? It's a
Okay.
description.
Well, you've dropped the term ether field here today a couple of times already, haven't you?
I got a new one for you.
No, I've never said ether field. I think there's only one field, and that's magnetism.
But we don't know
Hey,
what it is, right? We don't. You just said we can't define fields, so how can you
No,
possibly
I
say
said
that?
modern physics doesn't do that.
breaking
but you
news,
do.
they're dropping a dark matter field on us.
I would say the definition of field is like an autonomous governance of force. So whatever, but I would say magnetism is the only real field. But we're getting like way in the weeds. But like this is a big point though that I don't think people think of. People just assume that the cause, whatever it is, of the phenomena of when I drop something, it falls. People assume that the cause of that is the same thing that causes everything to move in the sky. Can someone draw a straight line between those two for me?
Well, relativity doesn't do that.
Assumption.
It bends space time, and it says that the Earth's moving up. That's little g, and relativity is the Earth moving up. Period. And the space time bending. And let me tell you why they had to bend space time, because they're making these measurements, right? And if there's a globe, then shit's getting bigger up higher. So if they're measuring the speed of satellites or airplanes or something like that, then they have to literally bend it. Okay, they can't. Okay, distance is speed over time, and speed is time over distance. Okay, so all they have to play with distance is speed and time. I mean, is all they have with speed is distance and time. So they have to bend the distance, meaning the space, because if they're just flat, then the planes and the satellites aren't moving as far. So they literally have to bend it. If you bend the space, then you have to bend the fucking time. It's so obvious. I don't see why people don't get that.
That's
They
not what
because
space
everything
time is.
Yeah,
That
I'm
is not what
telling you,
space time is, right?
that's where it originated from. Yeah, it is. They bent.
Well, I don't like.
They,
I don't know. I don't even agree with this at all. Like, it didn't originate from there. It did originate from the need to change distance and time, but specifically the Michelson-Morley measurement is why they had to change distance and time, right? I mean, but like you're kind of forcing the upward acceleration thing in there, but like you said, that's not what relativity does. It does do that, and every version of gravity that's ever been proposed in the mainstream does that. it takes whatever's supposedly causing the local phenomena called gravity or whatever makes something fall down, and it says it's the same thing that causes all the motion in the sky. That is just a completely unfounded assumption. There's literally no logical connection. There is no straight line between the two. It's completely unfounded. And then every time someone wants me to come replace their belief, they'll be like, "Oh, explain something like a local observation of something falling," and I'll give them some alternative, and they'll be like, "Oh, well, then explain how that makes the planets go around each other." Why? What makes you think they're the same thing? That's what I genuinely want to know. Like, no one's ever.
Because they put a rocket out there.
right?
Because I can guarantee you that we've went swimming out there 1,000,000 times, and everybody knows that space is exactly what they tell us. What's it? Of course.
It's to me like it's absolutely not the same thing, right? Like the local phenomena of things falling down is not in any way the same thing as what we see in the sky. We see a coherent, autonomous exchange of energy in the sky. Look at galaxies. What makes you think that what's causing those galaxies to spin, which is a real thing, by the way, you can look at it. What makes you think that the same thing causing that galaxy to spin is what causes the pencil to fall to the ground? That's actually like
It's certainly
an
locally, right?
asinine assumption. It's literally retarded. It literally doesn't even make sense. But clearly, like when I look at a magnetic field under a Ferrel cell, it looks exactly like a galaxy. Whenever I take magnetic fields and introduce them to plasma, it creates every known formation of galaxies. Every known formation of galaxies can be perfectly replicated with magnetic fields in plasma. It was done in the
Imagine being able to
50s.
jump forever and never fall back down.
Yo, Witsit. You don't believe in a unifying force?
I do, yeah, I do, but I just don't believe that
I do
there's
too.
some. I just don't believe it's like a force that's pulling everything to the ground. Like the Earth isn't like a magnet, but the unifying
True.
force from small to big is that everything is electromagnetic. It
Might
really got to
be.
get into the defining of all those terms, like what's electromagnetic, what's electric, what's magnetic, what's dielectric, how are
What
they
keeps what?
intertwined?
Let me ask you a question. What keeps the clouds suspended in the atmosphere? Like
Static electricity.
what force, right? According to Enoch
Well,
18, dude, he says the same force that keeps the clouds suspended in the atmosphere, dude, is the same force that actually propels the luminary.
Well,
water
that makes
vapor
sense.
is less. Sorry, but I was gonna say water vapor is less dense than the air down here. So I would
Well,
say
here's a
density and plus,
Why
I'd say
don't
plus electricity. It definitely plays a role in everything. I
Well, we
won't
know
disagree
that's
with
what
you.
it is, though. We know it's static electricity. We've actually the way that we make clouds rain is we literally introduce static electricity and it makes them
Sure,
rain. We
yeah.
know that the way that,
But
they rain is the separation of charges. We know that the way that they disperse is a loss of the charges.
you would agree that water vapor, though, like when we boil a pot of water, like it's less dense than the air around us, right? You would agree that water vapor does go up to some extent. So it's got to be a combination of both. Unless,
Yeah, but when you combine a ton of water together, right? I mean, like, why does this stay up? There has to be another
It
factor.
It's
doesn't. It
still
drops
vapor,
when you
right?
combine it together. It drops. When you combine it together, it drops. You know.
Okay,
Yeah.
well, just everything
Clouds
is
are mostly
fundamentally
water vapor
electric.
and very small particles. It's
You
not a
know,
big clump of water.
Dude, the mainstream admits they don't fully understand how clouds work.
the mainstream for a long time has tried to make flat Earth or that side of it feel really stupid about the gravity topic, acting like things like wood isn't magnetic and the Earth can't be magnetic, and people being open minded to any electromagnetic gravity theories are crazy. But over the past few years, they've been rolling out this new, ultramagnetism, this hidden magnetism stuff. Every week, they're dropping new stuff on it. There's a new study on ultra thin, ruthenium dioxide or whatever that, in bulk, it normally is considered non-magnetic, but as soon as they reduce it to like one layer, one atomic layer, all of a sudden it fundamentally changes its electric properties. So,
Yeah, the other thing
That's
is
not
when
what
they
we
say
see
something's
on the
not
Earth, right?
magnetic, right? That's all within the mainstream definitions of magnetism, which they can't properly define, right? So, like, they're talking about coherently magnetic, and you get the terms like diamagnetic, ferromagnetic, etc. These are all like improperly defined.
yeah,
Mainstream
well,
physics can't explain magnetism at all. So, like, it doesn't surprise me they're going to continue to propose theories, just like they've proposed like alternative gravity theories that are electromagnetic in nature. But none of them will ever work because they fundamentally misunderstand gravity. Just like modified Newtonian dynamics will never work because it fundamentally assumes proportionate mass. Just like none of the interpretations of quantum mechanics will ever work because it's retarded and assumes there's a bunch of bouncing balls where there isn't one. And none of any of physics is going to work until they acknowledge ether. None of cosmic physics is going to work because they assume like a relativistic application of gravity. Every
Right. Well,
single
hopefully we're on
field
the
of mainstream
precipice.
physics is wrong.
Hopefully
Hey,
there are
man,
we're on the
hey,
precipice of more people like you in academia, though, that are also. I mean, because there's dissenting voices even in academia.
Well, I'll tell you
man,
something I've never said publicly, but like I'll tell you this. You know how like you guys know who Nick Fuentes is?
Yeah.
Of course, yeah. So you know how like there are I don't know if you guys know, there are like all these articles coming out about like the Groypers have infiltrated like the GOP and like 50% of young conservatives in the GOP they're finding out are Groypers or whatever. And they've like infiltrated the institutions. Dude, I've gotten at least a dozen emails of people that have messaged me and said that they were like had watched my content and that it inspired them to go into certain fields and that they're just trying to get their degree or PhD and then to try to like propose alternative theories. But the problem is I get a lot of feedback that it's like almost impossible though, because you can't get any funding. You get like completely excommunicated. Like if you don't walk the toe, like a lot of that, like getting bumped up the ranks, it's all based on recommendations. And like you're not gonna get recommendations if you don't kind of like um kiss ass in a way and like even help prop up the theories of your superiors. So it's I mean there is some infiltration going on. There's definitely like a mass awakening. I'm not saying it's attributed to me in any way. I'm just saying like this discussion coming up on like a solid decade, really a little bit longer, has obviously spilled over into the people that were like 16 to 20 when they heard about it and then get going into those fields. Right. At one point I considered doing it, but then I'm like, no, it's just a waste of time and money. They're not going to let me do anything.
I was gonna say, how do they expect technology to move forward if they just say mass? I mean, like I'm surprised they ain't saying magnetism is mass. Like, I mean, that's a joke, but it's almost serious. Like this has been happening throughout history. Like they try and stick to the the known and scared to go outside the box. And like with Maxwell and all that shit way back in the day, and Steinmetz and all that, new technology. Requires thinking outside the box. And it's like it makes me think they have a lot of this technology and they don't want us to catch up, which would make sense, if they got some of the cool shit I think they have or may have, then why would they want to change the narrative and let everybody get on the same page and catch up in technology? But eventually, it's going to be inevitable. But it's like they
Man, they
want to
have that
monopolize.
stuff, dude. They just don't. Yeah, it's a national security risk for people to start waking up to the technology, because then the enemy might get it.
Yeah, that's why Globers, dude. It's like, why are y'all arguing certain shit? Like, okay, flat Earth, fine, argue that all you want, but why are you arguing against things like with it throws out there with so many, with so much to back it, and like I believe there is a one major unifying force. I mean, if they admit that, though, this I mean, think about this. They could go so much further if they introduced electricity to the universe. They could fix their dark matter shit. I mean, they could, if you think about it, they could just use mass and magnetism, electromagnetism, and almost fix their model damn near perfect. But that would
They
open
could
up the
literally
floodgates.
fix everything almost.
But here's why they don't. Because that would open up the floodgates to what's going on, and
well, it would show that they're admitting that that these crazy quacks were right about all of mainstream cosmology being fundamentally wrong, and that is the rabbit hole they cannot afford to open that up, dude.
It's
But do you think conversations like this make it harder for those people to break through? That the crazy quacks make it hard. So
No,
say
what?
for
No, we're
instance
the
you're a
only
young scientist.
I think we're the only reason that it's even like on the table. I used to like this is the thing, right? Like again, I've been reached out to by like if you look at my numbers on social media platforms, they're very small, like ostensibly like very insignificant. Like the people that follow me are crazy. And what that shows, when I just mean like famous and like very qualified and credentialed and stuff like that. And so what that shows is that you got a large quantity of people talking real loud, pretending to speak on behalf of people that fundamentally disagree with them. And then even people
Exactly.
that don't completely agree with me, they hate people on the other side. Like we're talking about like professors. Like they're like, I find the stuff you say very interesting, even though I don't agree with you on everything. And I think that we need more people like you bringing these conversations up. And they find it exciting that so many people are like interested in the topics at all. And they admit that there's tons of issues. The like online crowd that pretends to speak on behalf of like the official academia or whatever are actually the ones that are completely excluded. You know, just the way the system is set up, they're able to just run around and cheerlead or whatever.
Right.
But
But
like,
it's not just though. It's not just because they're scared of being wrong. Like it's because of like Lion even kind of commented. It's because of the technology, man. They got a monopoly on that shit. Like, do you believe in the what's that one effect? Begins with an H, like that dude showing the video with shit floating up. The something effect, the Huffman effect, or like even if that's fake, there's if they came out and had the whole world thinking in terms of electrostatics and the one force and electromagnetism, then we would have basically picked up where Steinmetz and all them left off, kind of, man. It went to the universe and all this other shit. It's and quantum, which is fine. Quantum as far as counting stuff, I used to think was fine for modeling and everything, but they're still explaining it wrong. So even if they're going to use it to explain stuff with quanta or numbers. They don't have to explain it the way they do and with the materialistic view. But I think they got a monopoly on the technology, and if everybody was on board with them, technology would move forward so much faster. So I don't think they're moving forward as fast as they could, but they're still ahead of us because that's my opinion on that. That's like the only
well, I mean,
conspiracy. I don't even think
the
flat Earth is a conspiracy, bro.
what actually makes the technology explode so quickly is always like financial incentive. So like the privatization of the technology, like the capitalism involved is what makes like innovation take place. Like the reason AI is exploding is because of capitalism. So like if the proper understanding of any of this was publicly known, the technology would explode within the next like 5 years, and there would be no way to prevent it. In a capitalist society, you can never prevent it. And like
We
there's also
seem to
like a
be
misnomer, like China is a capitalist market, right? Like they're not like actually truly communist. They have a capitalist market. So like that's why they have a lot of innovation. America has like something like 70% of the world medical innovation.
It's a
So
hybrid.
yeah, exactly. It's not truly communism.
They
So
would
I
have
think
collapsed if it wasn't for the capitalist market. They needed
exactly.
it. They had no choice.
Exactly. So I think that like they know that, right? Like they know that that's why like I don't believe for a second that the AI that we're given is like even remotely close to the capability of AI they already have, right? I think they've
it's
had AI for
retarded.
so long, dude. I think they've had AI for a long time. Like it would be one of the first things the military would do is try to get computers to think for themselves. It's like the first thing that they would do. So, like, anyway, I just think I can kind of understand their perspective. Like, can we be trusted with everything? Right? Like, I don't know. I mean, I don't support them withholding it, but it's not like I don't understand it. And I don't necessarily think it's just like strictly an Amerocentric like power struggle. I mean, the Germans they knew that relativity was bullshit and they were implementing ether physics a long time ago, right? Like we have declassified documents from the CIA showing Russia was applying ether physics like 40, 50 years ago as well. So like these other countries also have this, but if like the public mainstream scientific consensus is of material sciences or whatever is like something else, it wouldn't benefit any country to be the first to come out because now they've lost whatever tactical advantage they would have with the technology, right? So like my point is that if it's not all for show and there's actually wars going on, which I would say there are wars. I think stuff like the Cold War was fake, but and then this upcoming new Cold War with China is going to be fake. But I think that there are real kinetic wars. If any of the major world superpowers were in a real kinetic war, they all have UFOs. They all have crazy electromagnetic weapons. They all have laser weapons. They all have like thought technology that where they can manipulate your brain waves. They all have crazy things. I don't think just America has it, bro.
They better have that shit, dude. Like, yeah, I mean, they better have that, dude. If they
There's like
don't have
no doubt in my
anything
mind that they have
on
it.
my mind, I'm disappointed. I'm disappointed in our country at the very least. Like, I understand. Okay, if it's for defense purposes, then don't tell the public and keep us thinking about mass and mass. It's a shame these Globers defend it, just relentlessly. But if it's for national defense, okay, I'll let that one go reluctantly. But they better have some shit, to blow my mind. Every couple decades they should be coming out with some pretty cool ass shit.
But
Well, I
you're
think they might
so
roll
keen
something
to
out when they
reject
have
some of those
intelligence.
basics, though, right? You reject. You talked a little while ago about little g and how it was all bullshit. But we have stuff in orbit, and all you really need is little g. That's enough, right, to describe
No,
the
no,
basics of an orbit.
no.
No, little G is acceleration. That's it.
They
Yeah,
use big
that's
G.
all
They
you need
supposedly use
to
big G
describe
for
an orbit.
orbits. No,
No, you use
no,
little g,
You
right?
don't got to
That's
bend
enough.
space.
no.
You got to bend space time and make it into a straight line, dog.
No, you don't.
That's
You don't. You can use Newtonian gravity. So you which you're kind of right that you need big G to find out what G is, what little g is at a particular orbital height. But if we know what G is, little g, we can predict the orbit, right?
You want me to quickly debunk that, dude, with a question? Okay, if you're not
Sure.
saying you're following in a straight line, then I'm a point you at the ISS and point the speed of the globe that's moving at 60,000, miles an hour or whatever around the sun, and then you got the ISS moving at 17,000 miles an hour. So as it moves around the sun, it goes from like 11,000 miles an hour at its slowest to up to about like 59,000. I'm not sure the exact numbers, but I promise you these are close. 59,000 as it comes around the Earth. So if you don't straighten that out, you got some major problems, dog. You definitely got to bend space time to work out
No,
these
you don't
problems.
have to. You don't have to bend space time. It's simple mechanics, right?
Yeah, but it does use
And
big G.
and
It uses big G.
yeah,
Like
so big G and M ultimately gives you the acceleration field throughout the solar system for small
well,
masses, right?
the calculating the pull between the Earth and the satellite, quote unquote, right, uses big G.
Yeah, but the fundamental to calculate its path, big G and M turns into an acceleration. And
Well, you actually have
for the
major
mass.
problems there because then when you use the dynamic equation, you actually have to implement inertial forces that are not within
No.
Newtonian physics. So what they do is they claim that they're pseudo forces, but they include them in the equations, meaning that they
No, the
like
equation's
yes.
the equation's quite straightforward. It's the equation of circular motion, right? So you have a force perpendicular to your velocity. Your velocity is maintained by inertia. You apply a force perpendicular to your velocity and you travel in a circle, effectively.
Add one.
And the force due to gravity, which appears as an acceleration on a mass, is accelerating you perpendicular to your velocity, which makes you travel in a circle.
All right, brother,
There's no
you're not
magic
correct.
forces required.
You're wrong.
There are no
So,
magical
like, if you
forces
look,
required.
you are wrong. So, if you look at the ISS, and they're not magical forces, it's just in your paradigm they have to be magical because your paradigm's wrong. But if you look at the ISS satellite equation, it uses an inertial, they call it fictitious centrifugal force when set up in a non like a co-rotating non-inertial reference frame. So it literally implements a
So why do we have
centrifugal
to have a
force.
co-rotating frame? We typically
That's how
would
they
analyze the ISS's motion in an inertial frame that is not co-rotating with the ISS.
That makes it a double inertial frame, dude.
Yeah,
It
so
doesn't work,
dude,
man.
well, you have an
There's no such
inertial
thing as
frame, so like an Earth-centered, non-rotating inertial frame. Then you have
yep,
like they claim the gravitational force acts on the ISS, serving as a centripetal force,
yes,
right? That continually bends
yep,
it in its path or whatever.
yeah, yeah, and that's the
Yes.
scenario I was describing.
But
So
this is the
orbiting
point that I'm
relative
making to you.
to
This is the point that I'm making to you, though, bro. Like, if the actual claim of physics, meaning the dynamic claim of how that satellite is working, is true, you can't just jump over to like, oh, well, we claim this is how it works, but we're going to throw that out because we can just mathematically describe it over here and it still work. Well, that doesn't help us out. We're trying to figure out if the claim of putting the satellite up there is true and if your understanding of how that supposedly works is true. Right. So in terms of like what is truly happening in terms of physics, in order for that satellite to actually be going around the Earth the way it's claimed, they have to implement a fictitious centrifugal force. But that is not within Newtonian mechanics. That is not
why?
predicted by Newtonian
You
mechanics at
Please
can't
all.
explain that because we just
no, let me explain
discussed what.
real quick. You can't have a free fall with centrifugal force, dude. I mean, you ain't getting it, bro. You can't have the force. You
So
can't be in the frame with the force also, dude.
so what is free fall, Brian?
It's the inertial frame, bro. So you can't have
Yeah,
a non-inertial frame, dude. I mean,
yeah.
it's obvious,
So
dude. Look into this, dude.
so the
Look
so
into
the
it.
ISS
Just argue with us. Argue with them one time, and just
so the
tell what they're saying.
ISS
Into it.
so the ISS is in free fall, which means that an accelerometer reads 0. There's no proper acceleration, right? This is Newton's free fall. Sorry, Einstein's free fall. And while it is in that free fall mode, we can also consider it to be traveling around the Earth under the influence of a force. So it depends what model you're using to describe gravity. And in Newtonian gravity, free fall is dropping at the rate of the acceleration of gravity. And so what we see in the case of an orbiting satellite is that it is being accelerated towards the Earth at the gravitational acceleration rate. And that's it. That's enough to describe the motion.
So it's not elliptical then? I mean, is it a perfectly spherical motion all of a sudden? Something I don't know about here? School me, please. Is it not accelerating and decelerating? Do they not have to use centripetal and put it in an inertial frame? What am I missing, man? Please school me. Like, ain't it elliptical? An elliptical
Yeah, most
orbit?
orbits are elliptical.
Yeah, good. So we've got acceleration and deceleration then, right?
Yeah.
Sorry, I put myself on mute by accident.
Controlled by centripetal force, right? I mean,
No,
centrifugal, whatever you call it. Okay.
no.
No.
So
Are you sure?
in an elliptical orbit, the forces are the same as in a circular orbit. It's just you have you've set it up so that you're slightly off center, which means you still have that force due to gravity being applied directly towards the center of mass of the Earth all the time. But because of your velocity, you, from time to time, as you progress through the orbit, that is not always at right angles to your motion. So, or is it? But in any case, the maths of a circular orbit and a elliptical orbit and the physics are identical, essentially.
Well, I mean, this is the thing, right? You guys like assume and reify the base claims of like the relativistic model and then jump over past it, use the merely mathematical Newtonian description, and don't seem to understand why that you're not allowed to do that. Like in real physics,
You
you
are
can't
allowed
do
to do
that.
it, right?
No, in real
You're
physics, you
allowed to
can't.
use whatever model you want. There's no
Time out, time
rules to
out,
say I
time
can't
out,
use
time out, time out,
Newtonian
time out.
gravity.
Bro, it's called a pragmatic fallacy, right? We're trying to determine what's actually true. To say, like, oh, this can be used and works, therefore it's true. That isn't how it works, right? So, like, you would have to be saying, oh, I'm not claiming what's true. It just works. It's like, okay, well, that's not useful to me at all, right? Like, we're trying to figure out what actually is happening. And by the way, it's not even just a centrifugal force. They also have to use the Euler force. They use the Euler's like rotational equations in the satellite equations because the satellite's a rigid body. So rotating creates internal inertial forces. So they
Yeah,
literally
that's
have
nothing to do with
to.
its orbit, though, right?
But my point, no, the centrifugal force has to do with the orbit. The Euler forces has to do with the internal inertial forces. So in real life physics, if the claim of gravity is true, we don't care about equations in and of themselves. They're mathematical descriptions. It's like a language. It doesn't matter. Like we're trying to figure out, is it true that we can put a satellite up into orbit and because space or gravity is the effect of the bending and warping of space-time, or even gravity is an innate property of matter, like Newtonian said, whatever, either or. If the actual claim of gravity is true, and that's what's causing the satellite to move around the Earth, if that claim is actually true, that's what we're trying to figure out.
Yeah.
Well, it's
And
interesting
both
that we have a test.
Newtonian and
We have a test coming up in 2 hours, right? Because we have amateur astronomers that were tracking that SpaceX upper stage that calculated the impact on the moon, and now you're going to have amateur astronomers that are going to be recording the impact. That's happening in
That's
about
what I
2
want to
hours.
hear about.
Here's
Hey, where's
doubling
it?
down on the pragmatic fallacy. Do you guys not understand what's being said here? In order for the actual claims of physics to be true, it requires the invoking of inertial forces, specifically the centrifugal force and the Euler force. That is not actually predicted by Newtonian or Einsteinian mechanics, which is why they do include it in the actual equations. Like you can find some equations that don't use it. They're merely pragmatic and they have the other assumptions baked in beforehand, right? But a lot of the equations, like I have a source from NASA explaining the ISS equations that have a centrifugal variable. Is this a known thing? And they call them fictitious forces
Right,
because
and physics.
they are not predicted within that system of mechanics.
that's
Now
when
let's
you
use our brain
analyze
for a
it
second.
from
If the
a
wait,
rotating reference frame, right? Those
let's use our
forces
brain for
don't
a second.
exist in the inertial reference, right?
Oh my God. Is the Earth spinning or is it not spinning?
No, so the Earth-centered frame requires Euler forces
Whoa.
and centrifugal
But
force to describe orbits, right? But the
throw the frame out.
Earth-centered inertial frame does not require those forces.
Okay, but that's not reality according to you. According to you, the Earth is spinning.
It's as real as anything, right? We know that rotating reference frames will have fictitious forces arise.
I can break it
Okay,
down
time
better.
out.
Show me something on Earth where acceleration ain't absolute. Show me one example, and don't just point out the space. Show me one example on Earth, any example where acceleration is not absolute.
What do you mean by not absolute?
Yeah, what do you mean?
Absolute. You can't absolute. In other words,
You're
it's
talking, yeah,
absolute.
okay, I see what you mean. So that the value we measure of acceleration is not dependent on our reference frame. Is that what you're saying?
At all, right? It's absolute here on Earth. Any example in the lab anywhere, it is 100% absolute. Look it up as acceleration absolute, and you'll get mostly yes.
Acceleration is an absolute phenomena. Yeah.
Right, it's absolute. Okay, so just besides all, like he's saying, we can use the math to describe the orbit, but when you look at the system, you're like I said, you're going from 11,000 miles an hour to like 59,000 miles an hour, or more than that, 69,000 miles an hour within an hour, within 30 minutes. Like that, dude. Acceleration. That's multiple directions of acceleration, dude. And
From what
so
reference frame, Brian? What is the reference frame used for those acceleration, for those velocities? And what is
I
the
don't need
acceleration involved?
bro. We just agreed that acceleration is absolute, so I don't need a reference frame. You hear me?
You
We
didn't
just
tell me anything
agreed.
about accelerations. You do need a reference frame, but you didn't tell me anything about accelerations. You talked about velocities.
If motion was absolute, would I need a reference frame? If motion was absolute,
Motion's not absolute.
right? Meaning we need a reference frame. But acceleration is absolute, meaning I don't need a reference frame. It's its own reference frame.
But you didn't mention any accelerations, Brian. You didn't mention a single acceleration when you talked about the motion of the Earth through the solar system.
I know the ISS going around the Earth with the Earth going around the sun, going from like
What is the
11,000
acceleration?
miles an hour.
What is the acceleration, and what is it measured relative to? So that's coordinate acceleration we're talking
Oh
about,
my
right?
God. Oh my God. Oh my God. Once again, if something's
The
absolute,
ISS,
it has to be. Listen, if something is absolute, bro, it does not have to be in reference to something else. That means it's absolute on its own, right?
so
You
this
agree
is
with
where
that?
Einstein had a good insight, right? This is where relativity or general relativity came in. But if you are on the ISS, you measure zero acceleration. Even on a highly elliptical orbit like the lunar injection orbit that they did for Artemis, as you slingshot round the bottom of the Earth, the astronauts were weightless. They felt no acceleration, despite the fact they had a big change in velocity.
Meaning the Earth ain't moving.
No, it's not a function of the motion of the Earth. It's a function of a motion of what a gravitational
If I grant,
geodesic looks like, right?
Yeah.
well,
Yeah.
if I grant you that, that means the Earth ain't moving. If I grant you that everything they said they did, okay, and they were weightless and inertial frame, right, feeling no force, no motion, basically. They're in a inertial frame accelerometer reading zero. Okay, that means if I grant you all that, that means the Earth ain't moving. But that I'd also be having to grant you
No.
the acceleration is absolute, which anywhere we could show on Earth and in reality, I asked you not to point up there to give me an example, and you went straight up there. You know what I'm saying? But I'm hearing you, man. Let me calm down a little bit.
So if the Earth was in motion as per the heliocentric model, orbiting around the Sun, what acceleration would we expect to measure, or additional acceleration would we expect to measure on that trajectory of Artemis?
Okay, like the teacup ride at the fair. Pretend it was
Yes.
free falling. Okay, pretend the teacup ride was free falling, but still
Yep.
spinning, right?
Yep.
Still spinning. Right? You'd have centrifugal forces, and you'd have them in multiple directions, right? So it wouldn't matter the fact that you're free falling. You still have these multiple directions with
Okay.
acceleration. And acceleration, once again, is absolute. I'm just trying to give you something
So,
hypothetical in
so
reality,
what
maybe relate to, because you want to go up high. So I'll just throw a teacup and drop it from this ISS, maybe maybe that'll sink in.
Yeah. So what is the magnitude of those additional accelerations on top of the one we observe as they go through the trajectory?
Well, we have to do the math, right?
Yeah, it's almost immeasurable, right?
But we could easily agree, though, that these multiple vectors would be an absolute acceleration. I mean, absolute motion, right? With a teacup falling, free falling, but still spinning and twirling.
Yeah,
We would agree.
the teacup's a
Even though it's
bit of
free
a
falling. Yeah, it is, but not really. I mean, it's multiple vectors.
yeah. So the multiple vector things is not a problem, right? If one vector is massive and the others are very, very tiny, you can almost ignore the other ones.
That's fine, dude. If you want to just use up there and the planets and all this stuff as the example, then you make it almost impossible for you to argue. But I will try to bring you back down to earth.
It's impossible to argue because it's a fact, right? These things exist and they travel in the motions that they claim to travel in.
So it's a fact.
Okay,
It's
can
a
I?
fact.
All right,
Bro.
bro.
Go ahead, Us.
Okay, this is okay. What I'm about to explain is just a fact. Okay, I pulled up my YouTube and everything. So, okay, I'm just gonna read this. Newton attempted to use dynamic force laws as opposed to mere geometric descriptions that Copernicus, Galileo, and Kepler used. Newton discovered that there was a defect when he applied F equals ma to the solar system. His model required additional forces in circular, moving, or accelerative frames, such as planets orbiting around the sun. The additional forces required to make Newton's model work, quote unquote, are centrifugal, Coriolis, and Euler forces. Okay.
Yeah, so
These
that's from a
additional
rotating
forces,
reference frame, Witsit, right?
chill out. These additional forces are termed inertial forces, fictitious forces, or pseudo forces. By accounting for the rotation by addition of these fictitious forces, Newton's laws of motion can be applied to a rotating system as though it was an inertial system. They are correction factors which are not required in a non-rotating system.
That's right. So that's why we choose non-rotating inertial reference frames to do orbital mechanics from.
So do you get the point, though?
So the point is this, right?
There are
That the surface
literally
of the Earth,
required correction factors because the Newtonian mechanics system is insufficient to actually explain the phenomena in terms of physics.
when you use the surface of the Earth as your reference frame, a rotating reference frame.
What
No,
model uses
even
that?
a planet moving around the sun.
No, that's not correct. That's not what they are referring to there. Newton's laws describe the bulk motion of the solar system very, very well.
Dude, oh my God. You said it's
Unmodified,
not what
right?
they're explaining there. It's not what it literally says. Newton discovered there was a defect when he applied F equals ma to the solar system. His model required additional forces in circular moving or accelerative frames, such as planets orbiting around
Yes.
the sun.
Yeah. So
Such as planets orbiting around the sun.
if you are in one of those reference frames and doing the analysis from the reference frame, you need extra forces. But if you do it from an inertial reference, you do not need those extra forces.
Dude, I know that. And the only way you could even conceivably create this inertial frame in terms of Newtonian physics is to create the correction factors in the first place.
Yo, so yeah, so
No.
he's not getting it. Yo, so where's the inertial reference frame in the model?
So it depends
Where does
what
it
you're trying to
exist?
analyze, right? So for most
No, where does
satellites, a good
where?
for most satellites, a good inertial reference is the center of the mass of the Earth, and its axis of rotation is one of the axes of the reference frame. So the ECEF rotation.
Okay, I think I know the easiest way
yep.
to explain this to you. This is the easiest way to explain it to you, okay? You have Newton's laws of motion, right? And if an object is going in a straight path, it will continue in a straight path unless what?
Force is acting on it.
Right. So unless an outside force acts upon it. So let's
Yep.
envision the sun here and we have the earth. The earth is going to just keep going in a straight path unless an outside force acts upon it to
Yep.
deviate
Which
it
is
from
gravity.
that. Okay, that's in Newton's perspective, it's gravity. But of course, when you get into Einsteinian mechanics, there is no force of gravity acting on it.
No. So if we want to switch to
No, but
general
this is my
relativity,
point.
we
That's
can
what
do
you're
that.
doing. You're conflating reference frames like you can arbitrarily switch them around within Newtonian mechanics, which is an
You can.
Einsteinian principle. No,
You
you
just did it with
can't.
geocentrism. You moved the reference frame from the very center of the solar system to the Earth. You can
No,
move
but
your
understand
reference frames
Newtonian
anywhere
mechanics
you
says you
like.
can't do that. Newtonian mechanics
You
says you
can.
can't do that.
It
Newton
does. You can
believed.
move your reference frame anywhere.
Hold on. Newton believed in absolute space, absolute time, absolute motion. The problem is that even Newton didn't consider the center of the Earth to be perfectly inertial, dude, because it's also moving around the sun, dude. So I'm asking you again, where is your absolute inertial reference frame?
There's not one that we
Exactly.
can find.
Exactly.
But we can find some that have. So the hints you get if your reference frame is not inertial, Euler forces, Coriolis forces, things like that, right? These fictitious forces that you can't explain. But if you choose a good inertial reference frame, none of these forces expose themselves. So
Dude,
if you choose
hold on,
an Earth's, can I just finish?
bro.
I've got two.
No,
One
you
sentence.
keep scattergunning, dude. One thing at a time, dude. Let's
I'm
stick
not.
to the inertial reference frame, dude. You brought it up. You're like, oh, well, inertial reference frame, we don't need to reckon, right, the fictitious pseudo forces. But you don't have one.
We do. You don't need an absolute inertial reference. You just need one that's good enough for your purposes. So in the case of a simple satellite orbit, a first cut assumption can be made on the Earth-centered inertial frame, which I'm sure you all understand what that is. It's just center of mass of Earth with one axis along the poles, and the other one's the equatorial plane is the other axis set. And that works very well for basic satellite predictions.
That's the whole point, dude. That's the irony, dude. That's the irony. We have to pretend. We have to pretend that the Earth is stationary.
No, you don't, because you're just considering that its motion relative to anything else is not significant. It is not accelerating. And we don't care about relative velocity. We only care about relative acceleration of your reference frame. So if it's accelerating linearly or rotating, you'll detect that. If you want to do trajectories through the solar system, you need to use something like the ICRF, which is a barycentric inertial reference that has far less
Relativity strong
implication.
and weak equivalence principle is refuted by GPS clocks too. So
Why is that?
why is that?
Yeah, why?
Because we can distinctly distinguish between uniform gravitational field and uniform acceleration. And in
Well, they
GPS clocks,
can't.
they're distinctly correct for both with different formulas, yes.
So the GPS clock has three bias factors. One is due to special relativity, one's a gravitational dilation, and the third one, I forget, is another special relativistic effect, I think. And basically, clock rate is run at some very close fraction of real time.
Right. The uniform
And
gravitational field effects are rely upon the gravitational potential, so the height within the gravity well. And then the uniform acceleration effects are counted strictly related to velocity. All right. So you can
so why is that a
both,
problem?
and you have to.
Doesn't matter if it's acceleration or not. Any velocity is gonna dilate.
Yeah, relativity Strong's equivalence principle says that uniform gravitational field effects and uniform acceleration effects are indistinguishable physically, and GPS clocks refute that.
No, they don't. They just treat there's two different components to what's going on there. So one is a gravitational potential, which is not the same as gravitational acceleration, and then you have the motion of the satellite.
What's the distinction there? The potential of
I'm not
the acceleration.
I'm not sure off the top of my head, but I know that gravitational potential is in terms of general in this scenario is different to gravitational acceleration.
Yeah, their effects compound at different rates. You have to correct for them distinctly. Each case gets applied a different formula, a different correction formula.
Absolute reference frame for
the potential is related to what's called potential energy. It's about how much energy something would have if dropped from a given height.
Hey, we've got a proper physicist here. Thank God. Save me.
Okay, cool. Maybe he can explain to you that in the Newtonian system, you have the centripetal force would be gravity in your paradigm. So if you have the Earth supposedly going around the sun and an object is continuing in a straight, according to Newtonian mechanics, an object's going to continue a straight path unless an outside force acts upon it. So effectively, the centripetal force that's going to cause it to deviate towards the sun will be gravity, but you still have the Earth's mass seeking to move in a straight line at the velocity of the momentum, which is centrifugal effect. So you actually have the
That's what you
centripetal
feel
plus
on
the
the Earth.
inertial. Dude, you have the centripetal plus the inertial, right? The centripetal plus the inertia equals the angular momentum of Earth around the sun. This is why you have to introduce fictitious forces in a Newtonian mechanics system.
I don't need fictitious forces just to describe circular motion. If I put a ball on the end of a string and just spun it around in a circle, there's a tension within the string. Like ball on the end of a string, I'm lassoing around in circles. There's tension in the string, and then that tension in the string is called centripetal force because in this situation the ball's going around a circle. So when something's going around a circle, whatever is causing it to go around the circle, it's called the centripetal force.
Yeah, you can just describe that and then just conveniently omit the fact we know that ball has a tendency out away from the center and that the tension in the string is actually required to cause it to continue to go around it, right? In terms of actual physics, that ball has a tendency to want to go out away from the center though, and the tension of the string is needed to offset it.
Shoots off. Yeah.
Right. So that's what I mean is in terms of actual physics, if we look at a satellite moving around the Earth, if we look at planets moving around the sun or the Earth moving around the sun, whatever it is, there is the inertial centrifugal force, in reality. But Newtonian mechanics wouldn't predict that. So it's a fictitious force But like when you actually look at the equations explaining the physics, you have like the more simplified equations, satellite equations that are just mathematical descriptions that are like pragmatically implemented. And so it's like, well, it's a fictitious force, its offset doesn't really matter, right? Like we're just gonna account for what we need to. That's one thing. But then in terms of the explanatory power of what's the holy shit, dude. What's up?
Yeah, I just was adding in what he just described is non-inertial.
Well, if you assume a rotating coordinate system, you have to account for that rotation with fictitious forces.
Yep, absolutely. So, and that's what Witsit was going back to before about Newton's claim. He was talking about describing the motion of the solar system using his gravitational formulas from a rotating reference frame. He wasn't talking about describing it from an inertial reference. The analogy with a bit of string works perfectly in that case. Centripetal forces are what you feel if you're on the rotating reference frame.
An inertial laboratory on Earth, right? So the majority of physics experiments are account for Coriolis.
Oh, I think you're cutting out.
The lab frame on Earth is definitely rotating.
Oh my goodness. I mean, it's just like where you just have your cake and eat it too. But so then this is the guy I was referencing earlier. This is the theory of relativity. Mahler, right? He addresses this. And it says, however, it seems to be rather difficult beforehand to acknowledge the accelerated systems of reference as equivalent to the systems of inertia as regards the description of natural phenomena. When in the following chapters we speak of an accelerated system, simply we always have in mind a system accelerated relative to the systems of inertia or to the fixed stars. For example, if we consider a purely mechanical system consisting of a number of material particles acted upon by given forces and with velocities small compared with the velocity of light relative to a system of inertia, Newton's fundamental equations of mechanics may be applied with good approximation in the description of this system. On the other hand, if we wish to describe the system in an accelerated system of reference, we must introduce, as is well known, so-called fictitious forces, centrifugal forces, Coriolis forces, etc., which have no connection whatever with the physical properties of the mechanical system itself. In fact, they depend exclusively on the acceleration of the system of reference introduced relative to the systems of inertia.
That's correct. And that's what we've been saying all along, right?
Do you not get the point, though?
No, it's not.
Yeah. So if we have an inertial reference frame, like the ICRF, we can describe the motion of the solar system very, very well with Newtonian mechanics without fictitious forces.
That's wrong. You got to describe it not inertially.
Well, you just said very, very well. Like,
Yeah,
you can't
very,
describe
very
what you're
well.
claiming is actually happening very, very well because
So
you need the
something.
fictitious forces to do it.
No, you don't. You do
Holy
not.
shit, dude.
Because the ICRF reference frame is not accelerating to any measurable
That's
value that makes.
Earth fixed. That, once
Dude,
again,
the
that's
whole
what
point of this
the
presentation is that the Earth is in the center of the universe and it's fixed. And then
Yeah.
your response to the discrepancies within the belief that it's not is that you can just pretend it is.
No, you're not listening
Yes, that's
to me.
what
The
you're doing.
That's
The
the
ICRF,
Earth-centered
irony, dude. That's the irony. You don't get it, dude.
the
Your rebuttal is
ICRF
that
is not.
your sign of reference, dude. That's your rebuttal, dude.
The ICRF is not located on the Earth. It does not co-rotate with the Earth. Neither does an ECI reference frame. These are, to varying degrees, inertial frames, right? So in both of those frames,
Are we worrying about
in
this?
this,
Relativity strong equivalency principles are refuted, and GPS satellites are better explained more simply with classical mechanics.
so what is the description in classical mechanics for slowing the clock on the GPS compared to time on Earth?
Well, if you go higher within the gravity well, the clock isn't going to go faster.
That's not a classical description. That's not
Let me say
classical.
this: on a globe, it's a further distance. The higher you go, it ain't gravity. The higher you go, it's a further distance. So they have to bend it. They
Yes,
have
yeah,
to,
higher off the surface of Earth.
they have to change the clock because they can't change the distance because they got to keep their globe and it's a further distance. So they have to change the fucking clock, dude. It's obvious. It's not a globe.
The maths of
So wait,
GPS
let me.
disagrees with you there very
Okay,
severely.
you got C plus
Like
minus
you
V
guys
with
gotta
the
just like
G
it's
program.
like you can't just throw tons of different things in, man. Though, like because like you have to get a fundamental agreement. It's like this whole topic started earlier because someone was like basically disputing the viability of a geocentric model, and it just comes from like a fundamental lack of understanding of like what your own position is. And so I like like do you get that what you've done is just inadvertently conceded to the validity of a geocentric position?
Your geocentric position requires fictitious forces, right? By the bucket load.
Oh my god. Oh my god.
How do you
No, no,
describe
no,
the
no.
motion?
The angular momentum of a rotating universe naturally includes inertial forces. They're just actual forces. If it's actually the Earth moving, then you require fictitious forces. Here, let's just quote Einstein. This is Albert Einstein, taken from Hans' theory, The Effect of Rotating Distant Masses in Einstein's Theory of Gravitation, 1918. Okay. So, in the first place, it seems that such an extension of the theory of relativity should be turned down on physical grounds. Let K be a Galilean Newtonian coordinate system, and let K prime be a coordinate system rotating uniformly relative to K. Then centrifugal forces would be in effect for masses at rest in the K prime coordinate system, while no such forces would be present for objects at rest in K. Already, Newton viewed this as proof that the rotation of K prime had to be considered as absolute, and that K prime could not then be treated as the resting frame K, yet as or the resting frame K. Yet, as Ernst Mach has shown, this argument is not sound. One need not view the existence of such centrifugal forces as originating from the motion of K. One could just as well account for them as resulting from the average rotational effect of distant detectable masses, as evidenced in the vicinity of K prime, whereby K prime is treated as being at rest. If Newtonian mechanics disallows such a view, then this could very well be the foundation for the defects of that theory. That's Einstein.
Yeah. So, but I would argue that I could lift and shift your geocentric cosmology to anywhere in the universe, at least anywhere in the solar system, and apply the same logic, the same physics, exactly.
Well, this is Einstein saying that like if the Earth is just where it actually is and the whole universe is rotating around it, that it's physically
No, he's
viable within
talking
his
in
own.
general terms about some accelerating reference frame. It's not specific about the Earth. It's just another rotating reference frame.
What?
And certainly, in Newtonian sense, the Earth is rotating inertially.
The entire context of this is the Earth. It's comes from Hans' theory paper. Is the entire bro? You know what the Thering effect is, or however you pronounce his name? The whole entire concept, the Machian principle, is literally proposed to counter the assumption that the Earth couldn't be in the center. And he showed there was a flawed assumption within the Newtonian application that the Earth couldn't be in the center, and he explained why. And it was because actually, well, the Earth rotating around it could equally explain the phenomena. It was initially disputed even by Einstein. He was ridiculed. And then as Einstein began trying to put his theory together, he ended up having to write an apology letter to Mach and said, sorry for all the ridicule you've gotten, certainly any on my behalf, because turns out you were completely right. I was completely wrong. And not only is your point accurate, it has to be true, or I can't even put my theory forth. Einstein ultimately concedes to the vibe. He sets out on a mission to dispel geocentrism as viable, and he comes full circle to conceding its viability. That's
Yeah, but he
the
didn't claim it was
actual
true.
reality of what happened between 1905 and like 1918. It doesn't matter what he
Cool. So
said
we
is
can.
true. He also called Japanese people dogs and wanted to have sex with his wife's daughter that was underage.
So
I don't care what
that's
he thinks.
irrelevant, right? Because
You
if we go
invoke what he
back a
personally
few
held to be
minutes,
true. That's what's
we
irrelevant.
go back a few minutes and we talked about what we needed to predict an orbit, and we couldn't get past that, right? The fundamentals of what the reference frame needed to be to use Newtonian mechanics. So how in the hell can we start to talk about general relativity and Mach's principle without first of all understanding that?
But it's all intrinsically tied together. Do you understand? You don't understand that you have to invoke fictitious fictitious forces that are external or additional to the system of mechanics you're invoking. That
No,
what
we
that
did.
means simply is your system of mechanics doesn't work. It isn't viable.
We determined that you don't need to do that from an inertial reference frame.
That is just like knocking all the pieces off the board, saying "nuh-uh," and pointing to math and equating it to
No.
science. That is what you're
So
doing.
the maths and the physics which work from the point of view of an inertial reference. We can predict the motion of the satellites. We can predict the motion of the planets from inertial references.
The Earth is not inertial in your system.
Now, you're not listening to me, Witsit. We're not using the Earth as our reference frame. We can't, because it's rotating. It just makes it too hard.
I
Well,
know,
every
because
experiment
your
can go.
belief is untrue, dude. Do you understand that?
No,
Do you understand it?
we have to use an inertial reference to analyze those motions using Newtonian mechanics.
Right. Okay. So you have to use an inertial reference, but your claim is it's not inertial. So you can't even explain your belief in terms of physics without discarding the belief.
So you would agree that between a pure mathematical or geometrical solution and reality, there's going to be some margin of error, right? Always.
That's not what this is at all. This is not an
No.
acceptable error margin. This
Would
is a
you agree that
fundamental
that's
error.
true? That we can never exactly predict something precisely and perfectly?
I wouldn't say you could never do that, but like, yeah, error margins are
Yeah,
expected.
you can never do it, right? Because of the uncertainty principle, at
No.
least. But
Okay.
So we know that from an Earth-centered inertial frame, we can do an excellent job of predicting a satellite orbit. But it's no
Yes,
good
because we use
for
inertial forces.
no.
Yes,
You
it's
use
baked
the
into the cake.
inertia. You use the inertia. This is Earth-centered inertial, not Earth-centered, Earth-fixed.
Do you understand that intrinsically introduces inertial forces? If the Earth is
No.
centered and fixed, that would necessarily require angular momentum of the universe.
It is not fixed. We don't care about the universe. We just care that the Earth, we're using the center of mass of the Earth as an effectively non-rotating reference system.
So the center of the mass of the Earth is not rotating, but the Earth is rotating, and we don't care about the
Yep.
universe. We'll pretend it doesn't exist.
Yeah.
Around the center
And
point.
then we'll just dress up like unicorns, and we'll pretend like we're scientists. The issue that I have
As
here
it's
is it's a
describing,
consistent conflation between science that has actual explanatory power of physically viable explanation of what's actually happening, and then a mathematical pragmatic fallacy. I don't care what you can describe mathematically, man. It's inconsequential to me. You can describe almost anything mathematically. That's cool and all. It's useful. It's beneficial. I'm not saying it's worthless. None of that. It is worthless in terms of what is actually truly happening in terms of physics. Science explains, math describes things. Consistently, you're just responding with like, what if we omit this and we twist this and we pretend this is the case, even though we know it's not the case, and then we just act like that's the case and then move this over here. The math works. Okay, that's effectively a concession to my point.
Is the ECI frame or the ICRF rotating relative to the rest of the universe, observable universe?
The ECI frame is a construct that has, first of all,
They're all
many
constructs.
other
Every reference frame is a construct.
Yeah, it's mathematical construct, and it has plenty of problems. By the way, you can't actually invoke a real world model with an ECI. You can't even explain seasons with the ECI frame. You can't even explain night and day with an ECI frame. In order for you to mathematically explain satellites to me, you have to throw night and day out. It's like I don't think you understand the severity of the problem here. I was only even presenting it to show like the viability of the alternative, but in reality, it excludes your model as viable.
It doesn't. You're completely misunderstanding what we're discussing here in terms of applying Newton's laws to the solar system and orbital mechanics. Sorry, I've got a dog.
Okay, do you know how this all started? You have Kepler's laws. So we saw what the planets did, and we saw how they moved in relation to the sun and to the earth. We documented it. We saw that there was a periodicity to it. So Kepler came in and he just wrote an equation that described and quote unquote predicted it, even though it was a post-diction, right? He just saw the cycle and he documented it. Based on the radii, the ratio of the planets, and the periodicity, you could know where they were going to be. Newton comes along and says, well, in order for those planets to be moving, logically, there has to be a force causing them to move. He then just takes Kepler's equations and inputs a dynamic variable, does not define it, does not explain it, in fact, goes as far as to say he can't even comprehend it. And that if it actually exists, it must be God acting it on it directly, live time. And there must be a medium touching both things. But we just know people prop him up in modern times as like some genius that came and figured out how the solar system works. That's not what happened at all. He took the kinematic description, just input a dynamic variable, and then didn't even define it and said God. But nevertheless, we move forward. You can't then take that and say, well, look, it predicts the planetary motion as though it somehow like proves the theory. The theory, literally, I could put like unicorn farts or whatever. Like you could put anything in there as the dynamic variable. You could put some undiscovered version of dark energy in there. You could put, it doesn't matter, because it's fundamentally always going to work, because the foundation of it is the kinematic description, which was observational and cyclical. It's based on periodicity.
So I'll agree that our best measurements of GM for a given system are from observations of orbits. But I challenge you to use Kepler's laws to predict the motion of Artemis.
Okay, let's put a placeholder on Artemis. Okay, let's just put a placeholder.
Or
on that.
any other object traveling through the solar system.
Well, this is what I'm trying to explain to you. When you
That's when you have to use.
When you go and look at the satellite equations, they use inertial forces. When you then when you say, well, no, we'll just treat the Earth like it's not moving. It's like, okay, when you do that, it necessarily requires the universe be moving. You can't say we're just going to ignore that. Of course, that's convenient for you, but that's not how reality works. When I go outside and if I document the sky every day, it moves. You claim it's because I'm moving. I claim it's because it's moving. You can't say, okay, well, here, when we shoot a satellite, we're going to pretend the Earth's not moving, but then what? Simultaneously pretend the universe isn't moving either? Well, that doesn't explain anything, or the stars would always stay in the same place. So if I create a system, a construct, mathematically that keeps the Earth's inertial, the universe immediately starts moving in that construct. If we're talking about reality at all, if the universe is moving, it necessarily requires it have an angular momentum. It then creates Coriolis, Euler, and centrifugal forces. So what your model does is claims that those are fictitious. And for intents and purposes, they appear to be real. But they're not, because they can't be, because my system doesn't predict them.
And for the
That's the meta
overwhelming
point
majority
here.
of experiments, they don't account for them at all. They treat the lab as inertial.
Yeah,
Like
because
literally a
the
toddler
distance and
can
time
figure
is
out that
small, right?
centrifugal force is real, right? Like literally my 3-year-old could, I could teach her, she would intuitively understand that centrifugal force is real, with like the ball on a string example.
Yeah,
We
exactly.
all
That's what I
know
was
it's
about to
real.
say. The ball and the string, dude. Like I was gonna say, when you use the ball and the string, just let's go back to the very basics. Like and putting all these orbits elliptical. Tie your toe. You say there's a force that counteracts your gravity. Go tie your toe to a string and do an elliptical orbit. Like I said earlier, acceleration is absolute. And see if you don't feel these forces. You couldn't be in an inertial reference frame. It's not even possible. You would be flung outward as
Well,
you
they
accelerate.
pretend
Now you start adding Artemis and things like that. Then you start adding more elliptical orbits and different directions with different speeds, varying even more and more. It just gets worse and worse for explanatory purposes.
they pretend the real true coordinate acceleration is never felt. They pretend even the ellipticalness is never felt because of the free fall. I love to
and we can see
envision
this.
jumping and never falling back down. It is hilarious.
Yeah.
But then they turn around
So if
and
you throw,
invoke Newton again. They turn around and invoke Newton again. what you guys don't need to understand, you should never ever use the word Newton. And anytime you ever bring up Newtonian mechanics, you should say we only use this strictly pragmatically. Like this is only a pragmatic implementation. We know it isn't true. We know it isn't accurate. That isn't even what your side does. They act like Newtonian is also true. It isn't in any way. I mean, like Einstein bailed you guys out of like 50 different problems, and you can't have your cake and eat it too in terms of physics. Like only one's
But,
actually true,
but
right?
basic orbital mechanics is not one of the things that needed bailing out, right? that works reasonably well
Well, no, like
to a fairly high
everything
degree.
fundamentally needed bailing out, right? Like we had tons of problems, like even to explain the Earth moving around the sun. But when you get into Michelson-Morley, we have a major problem. You need Einstein. You can't like Newtonian mechanics would predict that you would absolutely have detected the Earth's orbital motion with Michelson-Morley. Like you can't even explain early 20th century observations. Actually, what late 20th century or late 19th century. But like, look, this is. Did you know that like in Isaac Newton's original like Principia publication or like prior to publication, his actual writings, there was a Proposition 43, like Theorem 22, that was excluded from publication, and he addresses it specifically that the Earth could be in the center in his original Principia.
But he
This
also
was
predicted the
discovered
Earth
by a
was
professor
rotating,
at a
right?
university. What's up?
So you know the Newton's bucket experiment,
Say again?
rotating bucket of water forming a
Yes.
parabola.
Yeah.
Okay, so Newton applied that experiment to the Earth as a whole, and he predicted
He
the
came to the conclusion
oblateness.
that the Earth can be in the center, not moving.
No, he predicted the oblateness of the Earth due to its rotation relative to an inertial reference. So he knew the Earth was in rotation.
Dude, okay, here I'm just gonna quote him. I'm just gonna quote him then. In order for the Earth to be at rest in the center of the system of the sun, planets, and comets, there is required both universal gravity and another force in addition that acts on all bodies equally according to the quantity of matter in each of them, and is equal and opposite to the accelerative gravity with which the Earth tends to the sun. Centrifugal force, centripetal force. For such a force acting on all bodies equally and along parallel lines does not change their position among themselves and permits bodies to move among themselves through the force of the universal gravity in the same way as if it were not acting on them. Since this force is equal and opposite to its gravity towards the sun, the Earth can truly remain in equilibrium between these two forces and be at rest. And thus celestial bodies can move around the Earth at rest, as in the Tychonic system. That's Isaac Newton.
So that first part was him admitting that Newtonian mechanics doesn't work with the Earth at rest in the center of the universe.
Unless
or
there
solar
was a
system.
centrifugal force.
Yeah, other forces. Yeah. So but he doesn't describe this source of those other forces, though.
Well, good thing we happen to know centrifugal force is a very real thing. And that's why if you actually read his
He knew about centrifugal forces, but what causes your centrifugal force, and how do you predict how much is
the
caused?
angular momentum of the universe. The only thing that you need to explain it is the primary movement. Well, you need this for any cosmological model. You need this for the Big Bang. You need this for the accelerative expansion of your model. You're always going to need to answer a primary movement question. But if you start the universe with a primary mover, right, which it is a mover. It's a creator. If you start the universe with a primary mover, then if you have the Coriolis force, which is twice the magnitude of the centrifugal force, then it's going to effectively seesaw and balance out and just spin indefinitely. So like you start the universe spinning in terms of Newtonian mechanics, the angular momentum would generate centrifugal forces, Euler forces, Coriolis forces, and it would just continue to move over and over and over. And in fact, what would happen is there would be a translation of forces down to the center. So if the Earth were there would be a translation of forces from the angular momentum of a rotating universe down onto the Earth. And when we put satellites up, we literally put them up as though that's what's happening, as though the Earth's not moving and the universe is moving around it, and we just throw it up in like a vortex of an ocean. That's how we actually do it. And then people come around and say, well, we just mathematically do that. Well, these are just constructs. Well, that's convenient that the constructs you need to actually put it up are exactly what we say is actually happening.
As I said before,
reject
I've got to go now.
But I'll just quickly say that, as I said before, we do not need those Coriolis and fictitious forces to describe satellite orbits. You're talking about an ECEF orbit description. We definitely need Coriolis, centrifugal, and Euler accelerations, right? But for an ECI, straight old Newtonian mechanics works fine.
Well, okay.
Exactly.
Yeah, well, again, you got to invoke like the very system that we claim is real. You got to come over to our side to even pretend your side's real. That's the point. It's all good, man. It's okay, man. If you want to still believe in it, I don't care.
But they don't, right? So when they go to predict these motions of things in the solar system, they don't use an Earth-centered, Earth-fixed reference frame.
Okay. And they
Yeah,
have
you
the
can use
physics
a
problem of centrifugal inertial
No.
forces.
No, you're not. You're not listening, Witsit. Those problems only occur if you treat the Earth as inertial and non-rotating. If you pick any other non-rotating reference frame that appears stationary relative to distant stars, then you do not have to invoke these Coriolis and
No, these
centrifugal
problems occur with
accelerations.
any circular motion.
No, they do not.
Yes, they do.
If you are in the rotating reference frame, they certainly do. But if you're in the inertial reference frame describing the rotating motion, they do not need to be applied.
Okay. Are the planets moving around the sun?
Yeah.
From the point of view of what reference frame?
Like, what? Do you believe planets move around the sun?
They do, yes.
Okay. Okay. So there's like a circular motion. It would have centrifugal forces.
No. So if I am trying to work out the motion of the planets around the sun from the barycenter of the solar system, I do not need to apply any forces other than Newtonian gravity, essentially.
Okay, look, the ball goes around the stick on a string. The ball is
But that
Venus.
is not my reference frame. My reference frame
I
is
don't
not
care
on the
about your
ball.
reference frame. I'm talking about
No,
physics.
the physics requires a reference frame, and you're describing the physics of a rotating reference frame, not the physics of an inertial reference frame. So
This
an
is not
object moving in
true.
a object
Absolute
moving in a
acceleration does not require a reference frame, bro. Absolute acceleration does not require a reference frame.
Even if we take the sun as the reference frame, you have the planet moving around it, right?
Yeah, so
The
no, you
sun
can't
is
just
the
use the sun
stick.
as a reference frame. You have to have an orientation and of your reference frame. So if you choose the sun as the origin of your reference frame, what is the axis of orientation, and what is the horizontal axis, or the what are the other two axes? Where do they
It doesn't
point? Right?
matter. That's inconsequential to the point.
It's
It's a
hilarious.
question
No,
of
it's not.
physics. It
It's
is.
not,
In the
because
analogy,
you're.
the sun is the stick, the string is gravity, the ball on the
Yep.
string is a planet. Okay, according
Yep.
to Newtonian mechanics, that ball wants to fly off into space and continue straight.
Yes.
The string, gravity, pulls it in. As it pulls
Yes.
it in, the planet still wants to go out away from the stick. It never
Yes.
stops wanting to do that. There's a balancing
Correct.
happening. Okay, so
Yep.
your model claims that, yeah, the ball, the planet, wants to go out away from the sun, out away from the stick, and it's not because gravity's pulling it, right? And it balances out. That tendency to want to go out away from the center is just fictitious. It's a fictitious force.
Well,
That's the inertial force, right?
It is
Yeah, it's one of
fictitious
the
because
inertial
the ball
forces. Yeah.
doesn't want to go straight out. It wants to go sideways.
Yeah, if you're in the
What
inertial
do you mean?
frame, you can describe the motion with, just the laws of physics
Maybe
directly. If you assume you're on the rotating frame, you're gonna have to use fictitious forces to explain
So
what
wait,
you
what do you
see.
mean it wants to go out sideways, right? If we cut the string, the reason the analogy falls apart is because you'd have to go to where there was never a string, right? Because it would be like you throw the ball, and then once the ball gets beside the stick, all of a sudden like a string appears attached to it and pulls it in, right? And then like as soon as the string appeared, you cut it, it just continues straight and it's slightly deeper, right? So the analogy isn't perfect, for the planets or whatever, but like the point is that
So
like
I,
if
I
gravity is acting and pulling it away from its straight path, like the object still has a tendency to go towards a straight path and it's being counteracted.
so I just posted an image of just showing like a ball on the end of a string, and the string snaps and the ball goes flying off. And like, yeah, it does go further away from the center point, but it didn't go directly like backwards away from the center point. This is what I mean by shoot off sideways. Like if the string
Let me ask
snaps,
them something.
yeah.
Got you. Let me ask you something. So if I'm
Hello? Did he
I don't know,
cut
he
out
cut
for
out for
anyone
me.
else?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, and then here, like I'm just looking through my presentation here. You have like the Luca Popov paper, the Newtonian Machian analysis, the Neo-Tychonian model of planetary motions, and in the conclusion, he puts there's another interesting remark that follows from this analysis. If one could put the whole universe in accelerated motion around the Earth, the pseudo potential corresponding to pseudo force in 4.2 will immediately be generated. The same pseudo potential then causes the universe to stay in that very state of motion without any need for exterior forces acting upon it. And this is, of course, applying Newtonian dynamics. So, applying Newtonian dynamics, the universe would just continue to spin and rotate around the Earth.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is
Let
pretty
me check
crazy.
it
And then
out.
another crazy thing to read is Relational Mechanics by Andre Assis. And he does not only Newtonian, but also Einsteinian dynamic equivalence. He shows that there's even a relativistic dynamic equivalence between a geocentric and heliocentric model. That if you take, you can apply relativity to a stationary Earth with a rotating universe, and it works dynamically.
Can
And
I
it
get
even
Yeah,
back
there's
to
predicts like Foucault's pendulum and all kinds of things.
So there's a lot of different ways things can be described from different perspectives. I tend to find it's easier for me to think about quantities like momentum and energy rather than forces and frames of reference. And I
well,
guess I am of the position of saying that like there kind of is a universal reference frame in the sense that like there is a quantity of energy within the universe. Like there is some reference frame in which it will be observed that that quantity of energy looks steady and is just being passed around by different objects as they collide with each other.
It's a dark matter
And
wind.
what was
goddamn,
saying?
Just
can
let
I
him
ask my
finish,
questions
man.
to you now?
Well,
Can
I
you
was
let
just
him
gonna say like
finish his
you
point?
can set up all sorts of different perspectives of like how the world would look if you were spinning at a certain rate and stuff. But there is, in a sense, I think, a preferred perspective, and it's the perspective in which you sort of have the God's eye view of looking down at all of the
Absolutely.
conservation of momentum
Yeah, that's
in
fair. That's fair.
every interaction between things.
Yeah.
Man, I was hoping to continue my questioning, man. I cut out earlier. So
Oh
if you
yeah,
can hear
sorry.
me,
Sorry.
man, I'll make it quick. But I'm making this point like we're going so far off into the weeds, which I'm learning. Always trying to learn. But like I said,
Cool.
if we're on a rocket ship accelerating at 9.8 meters per second, we're gonna that's gonna be a non-inertial frame. Okay, you'd agree with
Mhm.
that, right? Obviously,
Yeah.
right? But what's that in reference to? In reference to what is that
Everything.
non-inertial?
I have no
Nothing or
relativity
nothing, right?
model. Give me your relativity
So,
simulator.
no,
So
that's
so
it. To see everything or nothing, So, in other words, the whole point, I'll just cut to the chase, is acceleration is absolute. Acceleration, I repeat, is absolute. And you could point up to the sky and all this,
Velocity is
but on
too.
Earth and actual physics, acceleration is absolute.
And
And
so is
that's the
constant velocity.
problem.
I don't care if you're at a constant velocity and there's nothing else
Yeah, same
around you
thing.
ever watching you. Through the background medium, velocity is absolute. Period.
Yeah, I
I
agree.
don't care what it looks
Agreed.
like.
Right, and
Yep.
that stubs their toe right out of the gate. We don't even really have to argue. Like Witsit so knowledgeable, man. It's fascinating to listen to and everything. But man, they're kind of stumped right out of the gate, man. Just with Newtonian and then with Einsteinian, both.
I'm not really
Because
trying to stump
you don't even
anyone.
need.
I'm not trying to stump anyone. I'm trying to show that within their own paradigm, they have to concede to like the equivalence of viability. But like furthermore, I'm trying to like actually understand a viable explanation for what's really happening, right? Like like not only can you demonstrate the dynamic equivalence, like that's like if the heliocentric framework is granted the impossibility of like the required pseudophysics that we just discovered, but there exists no problem in the geocentric system, right? But it's even worse than that because like the geocentric system is actually like exclusively viable. And
Yep.
the angular momentum of a rotating universe creates a real centrifugal Coriolis and Euler forces, and it would permeate the entirety of the universe. Meaning like um there are absolutes, there is an absolute lab frame, there's an absolute reference frame, and the whole like deception of reference frames, it just like bends and warps your mind to where you can just make up infinite explanations for things, but like in reality there's just like an absolute truth. And like the earth being in the center with the universe moving around it, like it explains everything. Even in it kind of it shows like the progression of these different ideas and these different frameworks of physics and why they were introduced. When you understand why they were introduced, you're like, oh, there are bits and pieces here, there are gems here and there that seem to be like possibly explaining what's really going on, but like there's only one viable system that really can account for all of it. Like that's my point. Like
And
like
that's an upward moving lab frame.
well, the part that you have here that then becomes tricky or interesting is like the translation of motion from the rotating universe down to an Earth, and like and you now need a medium, right? So like if you have an ether connecting everything, and like even like the physical like medium, but like Tesla says ether is like a tenuous physical medium, like with a tenuity beyond conception. Or who knows if that's the case or if metaphysical, whatever. But like you would actually have a translation of motion down to the earth. This opens up like a lot of possibilities, right? Where like you could easily throw a satellite up there. You could easily, with the proper equipment, detect motion down here, motion from there, motion in tune with a sidereal motion, just like we do with ring laser gyros or like, other interferometry. We do see a correlation between the motion in the sky and interferometry. And then when we take it further with Michelson-Morley, we not only see a correlation, we see a correlation that changes throughout the year relative to solar motion. Like literally, like
Morley.
Did you see my
yes, and
experiment, man?
What part of
experiment?
Michelson Morley talks about that?
so Dayton Miller replicates Michelson Morley, and he gets like millions of measurements, and he shows that like the maximum and minimum fringe shift corresponds to like the equinoxes.
Solstices.
Okay, so Dayton Miller, you're saying, is the one that shows that?
Yep. Which is it totally disproves their model, right? Because it's showing that like the interferometry that they're claiming would detect the motion of the earth, and then it didn't. So like, oh well, you can't detect the motion of the earth while you're on the earth. It's not only detecting the motion in relation to the sun, it's detecting that it's the sky that's moving and not us, and it's moving.
Can I ask you a question? I'm trying to figure this out. So ring laser gyro sits parallel level, like it sits parallel to the earth, right? It seems like from the diagram I saw, Michelson-Morley interferometer is pretty much like the same thing. It's like parallel. It's planar to the earth. I don't know what about. I don't. Thank you. I don't know what about a ring laser in their model, right? They claim. Well, I guess in reality, like the ring laser detects a different fringe shift than the Michelson-Morley interferometer. But the Michelson-Morley they claim was to detect linear motion of the globe through space, and ring laser they claim is detecting Earth's spin. And I'm not sure how I mean, I have to look more into it, like exactly how apparently the Michelson-Morley one is like going back and forth, like, but I just don't understand what that has to do with like why it wouldn't detect
they're fun.
Earth rotation.
Well, yeah, like he said, they're fundamentally different, right? Like Michelson Morley, the setup is not moving, so then it shoots out a singular beam and then uses a beam splitter to split it to make sure that both light beams are perfectly in phase. Then they go orthogonal. They bounce off like silver reflective mirrors, come back, recombine, and go to the receiver. But then with a ring laser gyro, you have like 2 laser beams traveling around a closed loop path in opposite directions. And then the rotation of the instrument changes the effective length, like the path length for each direction unequally.
Okay, but
Like
like
the,
if you move a ring laser gyro just like along like a straight line, it doesn't detect that.
It does not. No.
well, that's what's so yeah. So it doesn't. But then when you look into it, um, there have been tests that detect linear motion with interferometry, which was
In-
previously claimed to not be possible.
including
Well,
if you turn a interferometer sideways, it does detect the upward motion linearly. But I don't want too much friction on that, so I'll
Mhm.
in and out that point. But yeah, what Austin said is true. I argued this with Zanuck so long ago, man, and it just went. I even had my own team kind of arguing against me, but I dropped a couple of references, and they used a couple types of laser interferometers with some diodes and stuff. They've been doing this for quite a while. They've been detecting, but they can't hardly concede this. We should have speedometers basically in our cars, but if they concede this point, man, then their whole model breaks. I mean, it breaks if they concede the fact that we have linear interferometers detecting linear motion, then we'd have better technology, but their whole model would break, and that's why they're so resistant. If you ask me, it's pretty obvious.
There was a comment a little bit earlier back, which I don't think I got a chance to respond to about like if something's accelerating like a rocket firing its engine, what is it accelerating with respect to? And a lot of standard physics will kind of give this very cyclic, non-explanatory answer of like a non-inertial reference frame is accelerating with respect to an inertial reference frame, and an inertial reference frame is not accelerating. Like it is actually very cyclic.
Itself,
And
right? Itself.
and things so on the one hand we can describe motion from all sorts of perspectives, but describing it accurately from certain perspectives involves adding in these phantom accelerations, which is the what's referred to as the fictitious forces. You could describe things from another perspective in which the description is much cleaner and doesn't involve the fictitious forces, but there's still sort of this philosophical question of like just because you can describe something in these different scenarios, what's the actual
bro,
reality of what's going
you
on?
you you understand like you
You can't
guys
show
like
it though.
for the fringe. So the fringe shift shown in a ring laser gyro is like the proof of your Earth like moving. So you not being interested in that and wanting to discuss like reference frames, like this ad hoc bullshit, it's like so boring and ridiculous that you don't care about interferometry.
No,
Well,
he's no,
it's actually a
he's
good
addressing
point
like
though, man.
the full thing we were talking about. Yeah, I mean like
Yeah, it's a good
Well,
point.
I
yeah.
didn't finish my thought actually. But what I was going to say is that the more I've looked into it myself, the more I've come to think that just because you can describe things from lots of different perspectives doesn't mean that there isn't actually a universally preferable reference frame. And I think there very obviously is, and that universe.
Acceleration though is absolute, man. You can't describe
So
acceleration as
Dude,
not
just let him
absolute,
finish
as
his
not
point,
accelerated.
yeah,
man,
Is
bro.
Hugh
Sorry, I thought I was
Glover?
done.
Is Hugh
I think
Glover
I
a
got a
anti?
bad connection, man.
yeah.
I think I got a
So
bad connection, y'all. Sorry,
yes,
man.
so so sure, the standard cosmological model has the Earth spinning and going around the sun, and the sun going around the galaxy. It's all these things moving relative to each other, but then there is, in a sense, a rest mass reference frame of the universe
Can you
as a
just
whole.
say? Can you cut to the chase?
Dude,
Yes, I think that there is an objectively sort of
Where?
singularly preferable reference frame in the universe.
Which?
And the best definition of velocity and acceleration might just be with respect to that
All
one.
of them.
So this would be the
The
reference
biggest
frame.
one.
No, let me be very
Oh,
specific. It will be the reference frame in which the temperature of the CMB is the same in every direction you look. Because if you have a velocity through the universe, you will see a Doppler shift effect of the cosmic background radiation. So there's one special singular reference frame in which
the warmest part?
color of the cosmic radiation looks the same in all directions from your perspective.
So the center of your universe?
Or you can do
Doppler
atomic
shift
clock
occurs.
experiments on a vessel. There's many things that can give you this Doppler shift contrast, which you can then determine how to get to the.
Dude, what do you guys gain
main
from not
it's
letting
not that
him say his
serious.
point? Like, I genuinely don't understand it. What do you
Well,
gain from it?
Well, I think I finished up my point there, which was actually just to
Remember reading something and they say like it depends because some aren't counted as countries. Anyways, I'm going off topic.
Yeah.
Out of 196, they only pulled 8, and there was like more than 300 million or something like that flat earthers, quote unquote, or people that didn't believe that the earth was what they've been told. And that was several years back now. I can only imagine by now there's probably even so much more now. Even with like the social media apps that are really making the globe look just absolutely stupid when it's being pointed out and like, just spoken about, using reason and logic. Like it's just waking up a lot of people. So I think technology would be the answer when you said, I don't know why or what it is or what it was.
There's a conundrum in regards to what you're saying, and that is because a lot of people, you and myself and many other millions of people, had believed a certain type of a paradigm because we were told when we were children. And then what happened is, as we became adults, you heard about the counter aspect of this particular forthcoming of paradigm. It's like the way you see the world. That's what a paradigm is. It's got like 9 different definitions, but anyways. But then all of a sudden there's this thing, the final experiment comes around. And I don't even know if that was a real experiment that happened. I mean, a lot of people have very, very high doubts about it. I'll say this, that the people that claim to have gone there, I would agree they went there, but what the information is being presented as might not be necessarily as accurate as a lot of people want it to be. So it's very troubling for me because I have respected some of those gentlemen that went there, and I highly disrespect some of the other ones that went there. Duffy in particular, and he's the one that paid for everything. Here's the thing: if Duffy's here, and I've only spoken with him twice, I believe, and he said, "I'm not even Christian. Okay, I'm not an evangelist or anything like that, but I know a lot of other people are. I'm not an atheist. I'm not stupid, but he did a sermon based on saying that the Bible doesn't say it's wrong to lie." Like, whoa. At what point am I going to trust him at that point?
Yeah.
He did an entire sermon on that.
Yeah, he kind of he cherry picked some scriptures, but didn't read the full context because there was consequences later on for those people that lied, even though they were lying. Because he was talking about like when you lie like morally, because you don't like if you're gonna lie, if someone says, "Hey, who else in the house?" and your kids and wife are in the house, and like they're to not get them killed, you lie, and then you're just protecting them, like. Yeah, but there was in the scriptures, like there was still consequences for those that lied. Like when he lied, saying, "Oh, that's my sister, not his wife." Like there was consequences for that, but he
There is
left that out.
two things about that Duffy church sermon that I think are maybe being ignored. Like, first of all, we don't know the full context. We only have that one clip, right? So we don't know the full context. So I'll mark that up for as I don't know the full context, right? But then the other side of it is he's giving his opinion, his personal opinion, and his interpretation of the scriptures. right? Who the hell does he think he is? Of a man of God representing the church, who does he think he is to give his own personal opinion on what God describes in the Bible to be truth? That doesn't sound like he's acting in good faith in the correct way that he should be acting. He's put himself into a position where he's in control, and for me, that's just fishy straight off the bat.
Well,
isn't that one of the problems though, that more or less everyone has their own personal interpretation of the Bible?
No, don't think about it necessarily in the Bible. Hold on, let me just interject here for a moment, and then
He's
I just
speaking
pulled
for
into my
God.
parking spot. So
He's speaking
regardless,
for God, right?
Yeah, I mean, you have
regardless,
what is it, 48,000 different Christian denominations which everyone has leaders who's pretending to speak on behalf of God.
don't lie, cheat, steal, or kill. Would that be an honest thing to say, or a viable thing to say?
Yeah, it's like God, and then you can do it.
There you go.
Well, it actually
That's the
says
credence
murder.
of religion and morals.
Yeah, but I think the Bible says do not murder, not kill, doesn't it?
Now, if you want to
isn't
mince words, I suppose that's going to be something that's going to become more convoluted. But yeah, but it's just the moral tenets of just people, even if they're atheists, in a lot of cases, are going to still say, "Don't lie, cheat, steal, or kill." It's just one of those things. It's like, oh yeah, just be a good person, stop fucking around, and don't do. And there's more to it than that, but those are the moral tenets of. I'm not going to say dogmatic, but it gets into dogmatism.
Yeah, no, for sure, you're right. Because because even religions that are even of like a entirely different religions, they all kind of have that like moral premise. Like they all can agree on that. Like those moral tenets, if you will, like that is true in all of them. So it's not about who is he. It's not just about who does he think he is speaking for God. It's he misinterpreted what was being said. So yes, different people do have different interpretations, but when you're just flat out like at that point you're just lying and then saying it's okay to lie morally. It's like no, like that's what I'm saying. He left out the part, and you earlier I forgot. I think that was Good Vibes. You said we don't know the whole. We just have that clip. Well, they have that whole video, like his whole sermon. They do have it. It's online. If you watch it, I'm saying he cherry picked certain scriptures, but he didn't read the full context or make mention of how they did have